try and complete this with a total focus. Okay, so then we can dedicate at the end. So I'll start now and continue. So homage to all past, future and present Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Practical Buddhas and Shravakas. Thus I've heard at one time the Tathagata entering Buddhist domain of experience, the profound sphere of reality at Vulture Peak expounded to the supreme Bodhisattvas who are pure and stainless is King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light, which is extremely profound upon hearing and profound upon examination. The Buddhas in their four directions confer their blessings from Akashabhaya in the east, Ratnaketu in the south, Amitabha in the west, and Venerable in the north. In order to extinguish all unwholesome deeds, I will proclaim this auspicious sublime discourse that exhausts all negative karma, grants all peace and happiness, completely eliminates suffering, which is adorned with all that is glorious and is the foundation of omniscience. Granting blessings, this I shall explain. Sentient beings whose senses are defective, whose life expectancy has ended or is fading, when the gods have turned against, whom the god has turned against, who are burdened by misfortune, hated by their beloved ones, or oppressed as household servants, in conflict with one another, afflicted with decline in material wealth, grief-stricken and miserable, ridden with fear and stricken by poverty, troubled by stars, planetary bodies, and fierce demonic spirits, or who see excruciating nightmares following grief and fatigue, they should bathe well to render themselves clean and listen to this sublime sutra. Should those with virtuous intent and pure mind adorn themselves with well in clean garments, then listen to the sutra on the domain of Buddhas, experience through the awe-inspiring power of the sutra the suffering of all creatures, the likes of which cannot be endured, will be forever pacified. Protection will be offered to them by the guardians of the world, their ministers and army chiefs, tens of thousands of millions of yakshas, the great goddess Saravasti, and the goddess who dwells in the Naranjana, by Hereti, mother of Buddhas, and the earth goddess Tara, by the Brahma kings and the kings of the 33, the powerful kings of serpents, the kings of Kinaras and kings of Asuras, likewise by kings of Garudas. They with their clans and might will arrive along with their mounts. And in valley, day and night, offer protection to beings. I will clearly expound this sutra on the domain of Buddhist experience, the secret of all Buddhas, difficult to find in tens of millions of eons. Those who hear this sutra, those who cause others to hear it, those who rejoice upon hearing and make offerings to it for tens of millions of eons, shall be venerated by gods and nagas, humans, Ganaras, Asuras, and Yakshas. For beings without merit, the store of their merit will grow into an limitless, incalculable, and inconceivable mass. Fiercely they will be protected by Buddhas in the 10 directions, likewise also by Bodhisattvas engaged in the profound, clad in clean garments, wearing well-perfumed clothes, possessing a mind firm with love without distraction. One should honour this sutra. Render the mind spotless, put forth effort to make it expansive and extensively clear. Then listen to this sublime sutra. Those who listen to this sutra will be claimed among humans, attain an excellent human existence, and live a life of comfort. Those whose ears this sublime discourse is echoed will have their merits, roots refined, and numerous Buddhas will extol them. Furthermore, this ends the first chapter, the preamble to the King of Glory Sutra, the sublime golden light. Furthermore, at that time, during that period in the great city of Rajgriha, there dwelt the Bodhisattvas, the great being, Ruchiraketu, who venerated the previous Buddhas, cultivated roots of virtue, and rendered service to many hundreds of thousands and millions of Buddhas. He thought to himself, what cause and what condition will cause the Lord Shakyamuni Buddha to live for 80 years? That is such a short life. Furthermore, he thought the Lord has himself declared, there are 2 causes and 2 conditions which belong life. What are the 2? They are namely renouncing killing and giving food wholly. As for the Lord Shakyamuni, he renounced killing for many hundreds of thousands of millions of eons. He perfectly adhered to the path of the 10 virtuous actions. He gave away food and external and internal objects completely. Not only that, he satisfied hungry living beings with his flesh, blood, bones, and marrow of his own body. Then while this sublime being entertained such thoughts with regard to the Tathagatas, his house transformed into a vast and expansive palace made of lapis lazuli, embellished with numerous divine jewels, its colour transformed by the Tathagatas and filled with perfumes surpassing those of gods. In the 4 directions emerged 4 thrones made of divine jewels. These thrones can be covered with mats of divine jewels and fine cotton raiments, and on those thrones appeared divine lotuses adorned with numerous jewels of colour transformed by the Tathagatas. From those lotuses arose 4 transcendent victor Buddhas, In the east appeared the Tathagata Kashabaya, in the south appeared the Tathagata Ratnakatu, and in the west appeared the Tathagata Amitayas, and in the north appeared the Tathagata Dunda Besvara. When these Tathagatas appeared on those lion thrones, the great city of Rajgiri was filled with bright light. That light pervaded all the 1,000 great thousand world systems in the 10 directions. World systems in the 10 directions, and world systems as many as the grains of sand in the Ganges River. In addition, divine flowers rained down and divine music resounded. Through the power of the Buddha, all sentient beings in the 1,000 great thousand worlds too became possessed of the joy of the gods. Beings whose senses were complete became possessed of complete senses. Beings blind from birth saw forms with their eyes. Deaf beings heard sounds with their ears. Insane beings regained their insanity. Distracted beings became focused, naked beings became clothed in garments, hungry beings became fulfilled, fully bellied. Thirsty beings were quenched, beings afflicted with illness became free of suffering, beings whose body organs were defective became possessed of complete organs. Many astounding events took place in the world. Upon seeing those Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas Ratchayurika too was greatly astounded. He was satiated, pleased, joyful and delighted. Feeling happy and ecstatic, with hands folding in the direction of the Tathagatas, he bowed in homage and remembered those Tathagatas. Then, reflecting on the quality of the Tathagata Shakyamuni Buddha, he was vexed with misgivings about the lifespan of the Tathagata Shakyamuni Buddha. He wondered, how is it that the Lord Shakyamuni Buddha will live a brief life of only 80 years? Those Tathagatas, while knowing and realizing this thought, spoke to him thus: O child of noble family, do not think the Lord Shakyamuni will have such a short lifespan. Why? Because, O child of noble family, except for the perfectly and fully enlightened conqueror Tathagatas, we do not see among the world of gods, Maras or Brahmins, among ascetics and Brahmins, gods, humans or asuras, anyone who could perceive the furthest future reaches of the lifespan of the Tathagata Lord Shakyamuni. As soon as these Tathagatas expressed their observation of the lifespan of the Tathagata Shakyamuni Buddha, then by the power of the Tathagata, the gods residing in the desired form realms, including Nagas, Yakshas, Gandharvas, Asuras, Garudas, and Kinnaras, and Maharagas, as well as numerous hundreds of thousands of millions of bodhisattvas, gathered and went to the house of Bodhisattva Vicharekatu. Then those Tathagatas proclaimed in verses explanation of the lifespan of Tathagata Shakyamuni to the entire gathering. The drops of water in all oceans can be measured, but no one can measure the lifespan of Shakyamuni. To the finest particle, the atoms of Mount Sumeru can be gauged, but no one can gauge the lifespan of Shakyamuni. The number of finest particles existing on this earth can be measured, but not the span of the conqueror's life. Although through some device one may wish to measure space, no one can measure the lifespan of Shakyamuni. The number cannot be found that explains the fully enlightened Buddha. Fully enlightened Buddhas lives this long, such as this many eons in eon terms, such as 100 million eons. There are 2 causes and 2 conditions for this: renouncing deadly violence and repeatedly giving plentiful food. The finite count of the lifespan of this great being that explains he will live these many eons cannot be found. The eons are indeed incountable. Hence have no doubt, not even the slightest doubt, that the finite limit of the conqueror's life is not observed anywhere. Then at that time in that assembly, the Brahmin teacher and expounder called Kaundinya, along with numerous thousands of Brahmins, venerated the Tathagata. On hearing the voice of these great Tathagatas completely gone beyond sorrow, they gathered in the place at once. Bowing at the feet of the Tathagata, the Brahmin teacher and expounder Kaundinya said to the Tathagata, if the Lord transcendent victor is merciful to all living beings, compassionate, desirous of serving, apparent to all, equal to the unequal, illuminated like the moon, wisdom and knowledge, glowing like the sun, if you look upon all these beings as upon your son Rahula, then please give me some guidance. The Tathagata remained silent. Then through the power of the Tathagata in that assembly, confidence grew in the Chavati youth, Sabalakapariya Darashana, and he spoke thus to the Brahmin teacher and expounded Kaundinya. Why do you seek guidance, great Brahmin, from the Buddha? I will give you the guidance you seek. The Brahmin said, for the sake of honouring the Buddha, Licchavi youth, and for the sake of receiving a share of relic powder, I wish to have a relic of the Buddha's size of a mustard seed. You said that if one has a relic the size of a mustard seed, one attains lordship over the gods of the 33. Listen, Licchavi youth, to the King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light, which features and qualities such as being difficult for all Shravakas and practical Buddhists to know and to comprehend. O Licchavi youth, the Sun Sutra of sublime golden light is in this way difficult to know and difficult to comprehend. Hence we Brahmins of remote areas wish to have a relic the size of a mustard seed, which when held either placed in a bowl or kept on the body, causes living beings to attain lordship over the gods of the 33. Why wouldn't you, O Licchavi, wish youth wish to receive a relic the size of mustard seed from the Tathagata and keep it in an urn so that living beings may attain lordship over the gods of the 33. O Luchavi youth, I seek such a boon. Then Sabalakapariya Dashana, the Lakyavari youth, replied in verse to the Brahmin teacher and expounded Kodinaya. When white lilies grow in the Ganges swift currents, when crows become red and cuckoos turn the colour of conch, when palm fruit grows on the rose apple tree and on the date tree mangoes form, at that time a relic the size of a mustard seed will appear. When from tortoise hair cloth shielding winter's bite can be woven well, then there will be a relic. When from the legs of gnats multi-story towers can be well built, solidly firm and never shaken, then there will be a relic. When all the leeches grow white teeth, sharp and big, then there will be a relic. When from the horns of rabbits ladders can be built well in order to climb high, then there will be a relic. Climbing this ladder should a mouse eat the moon and harm Rahu as well, then there will be a relic. When bees that buzz in towns drink a pitcher of wine and make dwellings in a house, then there will be a relic. When donkeys become happy, well versed in singing and dancing, their lips ruddy like a bimba fruit, then there will be a relic. When owls and crows flock to solitude, frolic together and become friendly, then there will be a relic. When the leaves of the palasha tree become an umbrella made of 3 jewels that keeps off the rain, then there will be a relic. When large ocean vessels fitted with turning devices and sails float and sail on land, then there will be a relic. When owls move freely, lifting the Gandamandana mountain in their beaks, then there will be a relic. After hearing these verses, the Brahmin teacher and expander of Kundalini replied to Sabalakapariya Dashanana, the Chabi youth, excellent supreme youth, the son of Buddha, great orator, heroic and skillful in means, you have received the sublime prophecy. Listen to me, O youth, concerning the inconceivable greatness of the Tathagata, the protector and saviour of the world. The realm of the Buddhas is inconceivable, and the Tathagatas are peerless. All Buddhas are ever serene. All Buddhas are perfectly emerged. All Buddhas are of the same hue. This is the suchness of Buddhas. The Lord transcendent victor is contrived, the Tathagata is unborn. His body hard as a vajra manifests emanated forms, thus no relic small as a mustard seed of that great sage is to be found. Since his body is without bone and blood, how can there be a relic? Yet to benefit living beings, skillfully relics are formed. Dhammakaya, the complete Buddha, Dhammahatu, the Tathagata, akin to the deed of teaching the Dharma. These are the body of the Lord. Because I heard and I knew this, I sought the sublime gift to make this truth plain and clear. Thus I initiate this discourse. Thus, having heard such profound explanation of the Tathagata's span of life, all 32,000 sons of gods generate altruistic resolve for the purest and perfect enlightenment. Their minds filled with intense joy, they spoke these verses in a single voice. The Buddha does not enter complete Nibbana, neither does the Dharma cease to be. Yet for the ripening of beings, Tathagatas manifest, passing beyond offering. The transcendent victor Buddha is inconceivable. Though the Tathagata's body is immanent, it provides a multitude of forms for the welfare of sentient beings. Having heard these discourses explaining the lifespan of the Tathagata Shakyamuni Buddha, and from the Tathagatas and the 2 great beings, the Bodhisattva Ratchiraketu was thoroughly satiated, pleased, extremely delighted, and filled with joy. He was overwhelmed with a great bliss of mind. While this discourse on the Tathagata's span of life was being given, inconceivable countless sentient beings generated altruistic resolve for peerless and perfect enlightenment. Then these Tathagatas vanished into that very spot. This ends the 2nd chapter, the chapter on the span of the Tathagata's life from the King of Glory Sutras, the Sublime Golden Light. The chapter on seeing the dream. And when Bodhisattva Ratchiraketu slid into sleep, he dreamed he saw a golden drum, its light shining like the orb of the sun. In every direction, countless inconceivable numbers of Tathagatas were preaching the Dharma, seated on a lapis throne at the foot of the jeweled trees, completely surrounded by numerous hundreds of thousands of retinues. Then he saw a being in the form of a Brahmin beating that drum, and from the sound of the drum, these and similar confessional verses issued forth. And then the Bodhisattva Ratchiraketu awoke and remembered these voices at once. Having remembered these verses, when night came to an end, he alone with many thousands of beings left the great city of Rajgriha. He arrived at Vulture Peak where the Tathagata was, and having reached there, he prostrated himself at the feet of the Tathagata, circumambulated the Tathagata 3 times and set to one side. Sitting on one side, the Bodhisattva Ratchiraketu bowed to the Tathagata with hands folded in respect and recited these confessional verses he heard coming forth from the drum. This ends the 3rd chapter on the chapter of the seeing of the drum from the King of Glory Sutras, the Sublime Golden Light. Chapter 4, chapter on confession. One night, without distraction, I dreamt a vivid dream. I saw a large and beautiful drum filling the world with golden light and glowing like the sun. Beaming brightly to all places, it was seen from the 10 directions. Everywhere, Buddhas were seated on thrones of precious lapis at the foot of jeweled trees, facing assemblies of many hundreds of thousands. I saw a form like that of a Brahmin fiercely beat upon the drum, and when he struck it, these verses issued forth. By the sound of this majestic drum of golden light, may the suffering of lower migration, yama, and the poverty of the 3 realms of the triple thousand worlds cease to be. By the sound of this majestic drum, may the ignorance of the world be dispelled, with fears quelled, just as vanquishing sages are unafraid. May sentient beings become fearless and brave. Just as the omniscient vanquishing sage in the world is possessed of every excellence of the areas, may countless beings too possess oceans of qualities, concentration, and wings of enlightenment. By the sounds of the majestic drum, may all beings be endowed with the melody of Brahma. May they touch the sublime enlightenment of Buddhas, and may they turn the virtuous wheel of the Dharma. Remaining for inconceivable eons, may they teach the Dharma to guide migrating beings, conquering delusion, overcoming affliction. May their attachment, hatred, and ignorance be pacified. May sentient beings who have fallen to lower migrations, whose bodies of bone are light with blazing flame, hear the speech of this majestic drum. May the proclamation homage to the Tathagata be heard. And in the case of hundreds of births and tens of thousands and millions of births, may every being remember their former lives, hear their teaching completely, and always recall the vanquishing sages. By the sound of the majestic drum, may beings always find the company of Buddhas, thoroughly renouncing every harmful act. May they engage in only virtuous deeds. For humans, gods, and all creatures, whatever thoughts and wishes they have, may their every wish be totally fulfilled by the sound of this majestic drum. For beings born in the most terrible hells, bodies are light with blazing flame, who wander without aim, bereft of refuge, filled with grief, may tormenting fires utterly end. For those who bear the suffering of humans, for hell beings, animals, and hungry ghosts, may every suffering be completely dispelled by the sound of this majestic drum. For those who are without refuge, without base support or friend, may I become their supreme refuge, their base support and friend. Supreme among bipeds, O Buddhas dwelling in the worlds of 10 directions with merciful, compassionate mind, please pay attention to me. O Buddhas possessed of the 10 powers, those wickedly terrible wicked acts I have committed in the past, before your eyes I confess them all. Whatever unwholesome deeds I have done, not holding parents or as parents, not holding Buddhas as Buddhas, and not holding virtuous deeds. Whatever unwholesome deeds I have done, haughty with the vanity of wealth, haughty with age and youthfulness, haughty with pride of affluence and class. Whatever unwholesome deeds I have done, through harmful thoughts, harmful words, and thought of harmless, and harmful actions done, whatever unwholesome deeds I have done, acting with the mind of a child, a mind with ignorance, or under the sway of a non-virtuous friend, greatly charged with emotion, discount with wealth, afflicted with depression and malaise, or under the impulse of frivolous play, whatever unwholesome deeds I have done, through mixed with vile characters of non-Aryas, through jealousy and miserliness, and through poverty and guile, whatever unwholesome deeds I have done, when poverty came to me, feeling loss of the desirable and stricken with the dearth of material goods, whatever unwholesome deeds I have done, under the power of a flighty mind ruled by desire and hatred, or oppressed by hunger and thirst, whatever unwholesome deeds I have done when oppressed by affliction for the sake of pursuing women or acquiring food, drink, and attire. The misdeeds of body, speech, and mind I have amassed threefold wrong acts. In these 3 ways, whatever I have done, these deeds I confess in full. Whatever I have done disrespecting Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Shravakas too, these deeds I confess in full. Actions I have done lacking respect to practical Buddhas, as well as the Bodhisattvas, these deeds I confess in full. Disrespect I have shown to those who preach the Dharma, likewise contempt of the Dharma itself, these deeds I confess in full. Continually unaware of this benefit, I have rejected the sublime Dharma. I have shown unwitting insolence to parents. These deeds I confess in full. Childish and veiled by stupidity, blind with desire and hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and pride. These deeds I confess in full. Honouring those who possess 10 powers, I shall worship those dwelling in all directions, shall deliver sentient beings inhabiting every realm from all suffering. I shall place uncountable beings upon the Bodhisattva's 10 grounds, abiding in these 10 stages. May they all become Tathagatas, until I am capable of freeing them all from countless oceans of suffering. For 10 million eons I shall strive for the sake of every one sentient being. To these sentient beings I shall reveal this sutra called Sublime Golden Light, which rids one of every harmful misdeed and expounds upon the profound. Those who for 1,000 eons committed deadly unwholesome deeds, by confessing them earnestly once through the sutra, all will be purified. Swiftly and wholly consuming all karmic obstructions by making confessions through the sublime golden light, I shall abide on the 10 bodhisattva grounds. Those minds are supreme precious jewels, that I may shine with the Tathagata's marks and signs, and free beings from the ocean of existence. Through Buddhas who are on the water of oceans, the inconceivable Tathagata qualities akin to the ocean's profound depth I shall evolve into the omniscient being. Becoming a Buddha, I shall possess 10 powers, hundreds of thousands of concentrations, inconceivable magic mantra incantations, enlightenment, 7 wings, the 5 powers, and the 5 forces. O Buddhas who continue to look upon beings, I request you to gaze intently upon me. Your compassionate mind always overflowing, may you hold them remorseful always near. Due to countless sinful actions performed in hundreds of eons past, my mind is pierced and stricken with grief, wretched with sorrow and fear. Solemnly fearing unwholesome deeds, I shall always keep my mind modest. Wherever I commit the smaller actions, I will not succumb to frivolous excitement. Since Buddhas are compassionate, dispel the fright of all beings, I entreat them to hold the remorseful fast and free us from every fear. May the Tathagatas keep at bay my negative karma and emotions, while may the Buddhas always bathe me with the water of the compassion. I confess all unwholesome deeds, whatever I have done in the past, whatever is done in the present, these deeds I confess in form. I shall not conceal or hide harmful actions I have done. In future times I shall refrain from deeds that render me full of shame. 3 actions of the body, 4-fold of the voice, 3-fold of the mind, these deeds I confess in full. Actions I have done through body and speech, clearly impelled by the mind. These 10-fold actions I accomplish, these deeds I confess in full. Renouncing the 10 unwholesome deeds and cultivating these 10 which are moral, I will come to abide on the 10 grounds and acquire the Buddha's 10 great powers. Every unwholesome deed I have done that leads to unwanted results in the presence of the Buddhas, these deeds I confess in full. In the wholesome virtuous deeds of all those dwelling in the Jambavibha and those living in other worlds too in these deeds, I rejoice. Likewise, whatever merits I have gathered through the body, speech, and mind, by the force of this virtue ripening effect, may supreme enlightenment be attained. Deeds committed on samsara's precarious wheel, those actions influenced by a childish mind, approaching the presence of the peerless 10 powers, all these deeds I confess individually. Through the feeble birth, feeble existence, feeble world, and feeble volatile mind, multitudes of physical actions, this mass of evil deeds I confess in full. Wretched with delusion of the childish and foolish, wretched through association with unvirtuous friends, wretched with existence, wretched with desire, wretched with hatred, wretched with ignorance, wretched with fatigue, wretched with time, and wretched in accomplishing virtue. I approach them, conquers and confess all negative deeds individually. I prostrate to the Buddha's ocean of virtue, cold and like Mount Samaru. Going for refuge, I bow my head in prostration to the golden conquerors. Their compassionate light dispels a double mantle of darkness. Buddhas are suns, blazing glory, splendor and renown, golden in color, eyes fine as pure, faultless lepers, they glow with the glitter of pure gold. And their exquisite and beautiful limbs are utterly flawless and perfectly formed from pristine limbs. The Buddha's sun radiates shafts of golden light. Consumed by the flame of negative passion, sentient beings ablaze like fire. They are refreshed and soothed by the moonlight light of Buddhas. 32 major monks render their senses exquisitely refined. Their all-expiring limbs are graced by 8 mighty minor signs, filled with merit and glory like the splendid rays of spinning light. They orbit as does the sun in the darkness of the triple gems. Pure lapis with an array of rich colour, exquisitely adorned by myriad webs of light. Your limbs resemble the crystal, silver and crimson of dawn. Like the sun, O sages, you are enchantingly glorious. For those fallen into the great river of cyclic existence, tossed amid crushing waves of sorrow and death, may abundant immense rays of the sun, that is the Tathagata, deplete the ocean of samsara, violent and cruel. With them shining brightly the colour of gold, they are wisdom's source, peerless among the 3 realms. Their limbs adorned with tensely charming marks. I prostrate to the Buddhas whose bodies sparkle gold. Just as the water in the ocean cannot be measured, just as the dust in the earth is utterly without end, just as Mount Samaru possesses matchless stone and the edge of space is infinitely unknown. Likewise, the virtue of the Buddhas are limitless. If sentient beings took the measures of their qualities and for countless eons reflected upon them, still the extent of the virtue could not be seen. If counted for eons, one may possibly know water droplets at the hair end, or particles of the earth, mountains, oceans, and rocks, but not the limit of Buddha's virtue. May sentient beings evolve into such Buddhas, graced with virtue, colour, fame, and renown, their bodies embellished with major marks of goodness and the sublime 80 minor signs. Through these virtuous actions, I shall soon become a Buddha of this earth, preaching the doctrine that guides the world. I shall free beings forever afflicted by suffering. I shall triumph over Mara with his army and might. I shall turn the wheel of virtuous Dharma. Abiding for inconceivable ends, I shall satisfy the sentient beings with the water of Dharma's nectar. Just as conquerors of the past complete six perfections, these perfections I too shall fully achieve. My ignorance, hatred, and desire pacified, I shall conquer delusion and dispel pain. I shall always remember my former births, hundreds of existences, and 10 millions of lives, and always recalling the vanquishing sayers, I shall listen to their teaching in full. And through these virtuous actions, I shall always find the company of Buddhas, accomplishing virtue, the source of every excellence. I shall thoroughly renounce awesome deeds. May the creatures of samsara's virtuous realms be at peace without the misery of their world. May beings who lack sense of faculties or whole defective ones be endowed with powers complete. For beings feeble in body, afflicted with disease, and in all 10 directions devoid of defence, may they swiftly be free of their ailments, obtain a perfect sense of strength and good health. And for these imperilled by threats and deeds from kings or thugs, tormented by numerous hundreds of afflictions, may these beings wretched, weak with sorrow, be free from hundreds of horrible fears. For those who are tortured, bound and beaten, distressed by passion or captured by delusion, may these beings fearful, faced with sorrow, be freed from the shackles of bondage. May these who are beaten find freedom from beating. May those facing murder be endowed with life. May those who are feeble be without fear. May beings tortured by hunger, craving, and thirst immediately find a wealth of food and drink. May the blind see an abundance of forms, and the deaf hear captivating sounds. May the naked find plentiful attire, and the poor find mines of treasure. Through the wealth of riches, grains, and jewels, may beings be endowed with serenity and joy. May no being face the pain of affliction. May all beings be attractive and handsome, endowed with exquisite, beautiful, and auspicious forms. May every life be replete with infinite joy. As soon as they wish, may there immediately be food, drink, great affluence, and merit, large drums, lutes, and pirans, springs, pools, water holes, and ponds, and pure blue and golden lotuses. Likewise may they receive at once food, drink, clothing, and wealth. Gems like lapis, golden ornaments, pearls, and jewels. May no sound of woe be heard anywhere in the world, and not one being in poor health be seen. Instead, may beings have great complexion in each other's radiance. May they mutually shine. Whatever forms of excellence there are in the human world, whatever they wish for, may they come to be. May this come to be. The moment they arise through the ripening of virtue, may this aspiration of sentient beings be fulfilled. May perfumed incense, garlands, and ointments, clothing, powder, and abundant flowers rain down from the trees 3 times. Thus may sentient beings be filled with joy. May they venerate inconceivable Tathagatas in all 10 directions, completing bodhisattva Shravakas, and likewise a flawless, pristine Dharma. May migrating beings avoid the lower realms. May they go beyond the 8 unfortunate states. May they attain the 8 auspicious conditions. May the meetings with Buddhas always be received. Always born in higher classes, may beings be replete with wealth and with grain. For numerous ends, may they be endowed with a great form, renown, complexion, and fame. May all women become like men, heroic, learned, lucid, and strong, endeavouring to complete the 6 perfections. May they insensibly try for enlightenment. May they come to behold the Buddhas in the 10 directions, see these upon the precious lapis thrones. Under bejeweled, exquisite, stately trees, may they hear the Buddha's Dharma explaining. Unwholesome deeds I have performed and created in wretched existence past. May these negative effects which are ripened due to deeds be completely extinguished. May those beings who are tied in existence and tightly bound by the rope of the cycling round unravel their bondage with a wisdom hand and quickly be freed from all suffering. Whatever beings here in Jambavipa and in the world of spheres to perform profound virtuous acts in these deeds, I rejoice in full. Through the merit of the actions of body, speech, and mind, through rejoicing in others' virtues, may every root of my prayers and practice unfold, and may the pristine, peerless, enlightenment be attained. Those who recite this dedication, who prostrate and praise with an unsoiled mind, always devout and free of stains, shall avoid terrible rebirth for 60 aeons. By reciting these prayers in verses, men, women, Brahmins, and royal who praise the conquerors of the folded hands will remember their births in every life. They shall receive bodies adorned with complete limbs and senses and myriad merits and virtues. The Lord of humans will honour them always, such will they be in each place of birth. Thus, those into whose ears this confession enters have not performed virtue under just one Buddha, but not 2, not 4, not 5, not 10, nor in the presence of merely 1,000 Buddhas have they completed virtue. This is the 4th chapter on the chapter on confession from the King of Glory Sutras, Sublime Golden Light. Chapter 5. Then the Tathagata said this to the noble goddess Arya Sanghata Sutra. O noble goddess, at that time, at that moment, a king called Subhanama Bhurjendra, with his eulogy of all the Tathagatas called the source of lotuses, praised past, future, and present Buddhas, conquerors that appear in the past, those who dwell now in the 10 directions. To those conquerors I prostrate, of those conquerors I sing praise. The vanquishing sages are calm, utterly calm and pristine. Their bodies shine with the colour of gold. Their voices are sweetest of all melodies, for they roar the melody of Brahma. Their hair is bee, peacock and lotus blue, curly and jet blue as the blue jay. Like snow and conch, their teeth are very beautiful, intensely white, gleaming like gold. Their eyes long and flawless blue, resemble lotuses in full bloom. Their tongues fine and broad, lotus-coloured and shiny, resemble a lotus thread. Their treasure hair, like the lotus and conch of lapis colour, swirls to the right. The eyes of the Buddhas are slender in the waning moon. The navel of their bodies shines like a bee. Their noses high on their lofty faces are soft and fine, their colour agile, akin to a divine gold. Always and incessantly the taste senses of conquerors are smooth, sublime, and outstandingly supreme. A single hair emerges from the very paw and curls to the right. Their plaited hair, deep blue, lustrous and glistening, is blue as a peacock's beautiful neck. As soon as they are born, their bodies illuminate the triple realms and all the 10 direction worlds. Limitless suffering is dispelled by this light, and sentient beings are sustained with all happiness. In the realm of hell beings, animals, hungry ghosts, humans and gods, all beings are endowed with peace and happiness. Migrating beings of the lower realms are calm. Of fine complexion, their bodies glow with light, the colour of refined gold, like a pure, spotless moon. The faces and Sangata smiling are most beautiful and pristine. Their bodies and limbs are tender as a newborn child. Their excellent heroic gait is that of a lion. Their long hands and very long arms are as branches of a salad tree swung by the wind. Their full arms span blazing lights, issues raised like 1,000 sun, intensely bright. Flawless are the supreme forms of vanquishing sages who brightly illuminate limitless worlds. The brilliance of the Buddhas pales and eclipses the light of numerous suns and full moons in limitless hundreds of thousands of worlds. The sun of the Buddhas is the light of the world. Hundreds of thousands of Buddhist suns, the light of Tathagatas, are beheld by beings in countless hundreds of thousands of worlds. Their forms possessed of 100,000 merits are fully adorned with every virtue. The arm of conquerors resemble the real elephant's trunk. The light of the hand and feet is striking and bright, equaling the dust particles of the surface of the earth. Our past Buddhas, numerous as grains of fine sand. Buddhas to come are just equal to that in number. Equal to are those abiding now. With speech, mind, and body pure, I offer flowers, incense, and abundant praise. My mind overflowing with virtue, I prostrate to these conquerors. The qualities of the conquerors are only virtue of the highest essence and ranging wide. Had I 100 tongues and thousands of eons, I could not express the qualities of Buddhas. Since even with 1,000 tongues, conquerors' virtues are beyond all words. How would merely 100 conquerors How with merely 100 tongues could all the qualities of a conqueror be told? Should all the worlds, including realms of gods, become an ocean of water approaching the samsara's peak, these waters may be gauged in a hair-tip drop, yet not one virtue of Sangata can be measured. Through body, speech, and a lucid mind, I have sung this eulogy to all conquerors. Through the finest fruit of merit, I have gathered thus. May sentient beings teach supreme enlightenment. Having praised the Buddhas in this way, the king made the following wish. In limitless eons in the future time, whatever I am reborn, may I see such a drum as in the dream, and from it hear such confession. In every birth may I find a eulogy to conquerors equal to the source of lotuses. Buddha qualities limitless and peerless, hard to find in thousands of eons. I will hear these virtues to the dream. Upon waking I shall expound them. I shall liberate all beings from the ocean of suffering. I shall complete the 6 perfections. When in this way I achieve peerless enlightenment, may my body field not be loose and infirm. My Buddha field. As an effect of the fruition of offering the drum and singing praises to all the Buddhas, I shall directly uphold the Lord Shakyamuni Buddha. Then with my sons Kanaka Bheshindra and Kanaka Parabha, may I receive their supreme prophecy along with my 2 children. May the prediction of enlightenment be attained. For those beings who lack a boat of support and are wretched and bereft of refuge, may I in future times become their refuge, protector and guardian, so that I may end their suffering on his sources and become a wellspring of all virtue. And in the future I shall accomplish enlightened deeds for eons as many as those gone past. Through this confession of sublime golden light, may the ocean of my misdeeds dry up, may the ocean of my karma be depleted, and may the ocean of my delusion be exhausted. May the ocean of my merit be complete. May the ocean of my wisdom be perfectly pure and become an ocean of every virtue. May enlightenment's precious qualities be complete through the power of this confession of sublime golden light. May the force of my merit brightly shine. May the light of this enlightenment be pristine through the sublime light of stainless wisdom. May the light of my form glisten and cause the light of merit to gleam. Always endowed with the virtuous power, may I be renowned in all the three realms, so I may free beings from an ocean of suffering and offer peace and happiness vast as the sea. For eons in the future times I shall always engage in enlightening deeds. However many Buddhas exist in the realms, just as their words are incomparably distinguished. For the virtue of conquest and limitless merit, may I, my Buddha fields be limitless likewise. So, then at the time the Tathagata spoke these verses, in numerous other conceivable sutras I have expounded empty phenomena in detail. Hence here in this Supreme Sutra, empty phenomena I will just briefly explain. As beings of slight intelligence and are incapable of knowing all things, hence here in the Supreme Sublime Sutra, empty phenomena are explained only in brief, so that all beings may certainly know, so they may be delivered from cyclic existence. Through compassionate ways, method, and other means I have expounded the Supreme Sublime Sutra. The body is like an empty village or house. Senses are like soldiers and thieves, and although they live in the same village, they are unaware of each other. The eye senses run after forms, the ear senses indulges in sounds, the nose senses captures numerous smells, the tongue sense always tastes, the body senses pursue tactile sensations, and the mental sense carries phenomena. These 6 individual senses are each absorbed into their objects. The mind is capricious as an illusion. Its 6 senses thoroughly engrossed like a man who runs to an empty village and resides there among soldiers and thieves. The mind dwells in 6 objects and fully knows the objects of the senses. Therefore, the mind resides in 6 objects and fully knows the objects of 6 engagements. Forms, sounds, and likewise smells, tastes, tactiles, and phenomenal. The mind in motion like a bird in flight. In all 6 enters the sense faculties. In whatever sense it abides, it lends that sense its knowing nature. The body, like a machine in an empty village, is without motion, complete without action. Lacking core essence, it arises from conditions. Arising from concepts, it lacks inherent nature. Earth, water, fire, wind, abiding separately in different parts like deadly snakes in the same den, are ever in conflict with each other. Of these 4 snakes of the elements, 2 move up and 2 move down. Moving by 2s in direction and 2 subdirections, these snakes of the elements will surely perish. The earth snake and the water snake perish down below. The fire snake and the wind snake ascend to the space above. Due to actions done in the past, the mind and conscience depart from their abodes. Gods, humans, and 3 lower migrators are born in existence according to deeds done. At death, when phlegm, wind, and bile have been exhausted, the mind is filled with urine and foul matter. Not pleasant, it becomes a heap of worms, discarded like wood at the charnel ground. Behold these things, O goddess, here being persons, and likewise phenomena empty. Due to ignorance they arise. These great elements have no great origination. Originating from the unintegrated, they lack origination. Since that which originates does not originate, I have called them the great elements. They do not exist and do not ever exist. Due to ignorance they have come into being. Ignorance itself does not exist, thus I have called it ignorance. Action and conscience name and form the 6 sources: contact, feeling, craving, grasping, existence too. Birth, aging, and death, sorrow and afflictions. These comprise the 12 links of dependent arising. Origination. The inconceivable suffering of cyclic existence, as they operate in the wheel of life, have originated from they originated. So they are without origination, free from discursive conceptual thought. Cut the view of self-existence, sever the net of affliction. Brandish the sword of knowledge, and behold the abode of aggregates as empty. In this way, enlightenment shall be reached. I have opened the door to the city of nectar, and therefore thoroughly enter into its abode. I have utterly revealed the vessels of nectar. With its juice I have been filled. I have beaten the sublime drum of the Dharma. I have blown Dharma's, the Dharma's supreme conch. I have rained the sublime shower of Dharma. I have ignited Dharma's supreme torch. I conquered the potent enemy, the afflictions, and hosted Dharma's victory banner high. I rescued beings from the ocean of existence, sealed the path of the 3 lower realms. For being scorched by the fire of afflictions without support or cooperative forces, I soothed those burdened by delusion's flame, and with nectar's juice satisfied such beings. For inconceivably many eons I have venerated inconceivable many Buddhas. Fervently seeking Buddha Dharmakaya, resolute in my vows, I engaged in bodhisattva deeds. I gave my hands, eyes, and legs the supreme path, the head, beloved daughters and sons, crystals, gems, pearls, ornaments, and gold, lapis, and various jewels. A person might cut and chop all that grows on this earth, bushes and trees, grasses, forests, and all the 1,000 worlds. If you ground them to powder and reduce them to dust, a mound reaching the end of space could be built and split into 3 parts. If knowledge of all the dust on earth, infinite units of 1,000 world spheres, was bestowed upon just one being, that being would be extremely superior. Possessed of exalted wisdom, he might count all these particles in that mound of dust, but the extent of the conqueror's knowledge cannot be known. Even in countless tens of millions of eons, the vitality of such a single moment of the conqueror's omniscient wisdom cannot be measured or argued. This ends the 6th chapter. This chapter of emptiness from the King of Glorious Sutras, the Sublime Golden Light. Then the great king Vaishravana, the great king Dhritarashtra, the great king Viradaka, and the great king Virupaksha rose from their seats, put their upper robes over one shoulder, and knelt on the right knees. Bowing in reverence in the direction of the Tathagata, they spoke thus: Venerable transcendent victor, this king of glorious sutras, the sublime golden light, is proclaimed by all the Tathagatas, discerned by all the Tathagatas, considered by all the Tathagatas, upheld by the entire assembly of bodhisattvas, honoured by the entire community of gods, worshipped by the entire community of gods, praised by all the entire community of gods, and is venerated, praised, and revered by the world protectors. It illuminates the dwellings of the gods, magnificently bestows supreme bliss upon all sentient beings, dries up the suffering of beings in the hells, the animal realm, and the world of Yama, severs the continuity of fear, repels all opponent enemies, armies, utterly ends all desolate famine, thoroughly pacifies all hopeless illness, and overthrows all unfriendly planets. This sutra makes beings supremely serene, utterly alleviates sorrow and afflictive emotions, utterly removes from all forms of harm, and utterly overcomes hundreds of thousands of afflictions. If Venerable Transcendent Victor, this King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light, is expounded perfectly and extensively among the assembly, then by hearing the Dharma and by the nectar of the Dharma, the divine bodies of us, the 4 great kings, along with their armies and retinues, will wax immensely, having great awe-inspiring glory. In our bodies, stamina, might, and prowess will be generated. In our bodies, charisma, excellence, and consummate good fortune will flow. Venerable Transcendent Victor, we, the 4 great kings, abide by the Dharma, confess the Dharma and the Dharma kings. Venerable Transcendent Victor, through the power of the Dharma, will be kings of gods, Nagas, Yakshas, Gandharvas, Asuras, Garudas, Kanaras, and Mahagaragas. We will rout the terrible hordes of Buddhas who will, without compassion, steal their glory from others. Venerable Transcendent Victor, we, along with the 28 great generals of the Yakshas, and with numerous hundreds of thousands of Yakshas too, will always watch over, guard, and protect the whole of Jambavippa with our divine eye, which is pure and surpasses the eye of humans. Venerable Transcendent Victor, for this reason, we, the 4 great kings, are known by the name word protector. Venerable Transcendent Victor, whatever regions of this Jambavippa is overrun by foreign enemies, afflicted with famine and disease, and acutely oppressed by thunders of different arms, thousands of harms and hundreds of thousands of harms, Venerable Transcendent Victor, we, the 4 kings, will give support to the devout monks who keep the King of Glorious Sutra, the sublime golden light. Venerable Transcendent Victor, when devout monks, upon receiving encouragement from us, the 4 great kings, through magic, power, blessings, travel to those regions, proclaiming perfectly the King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light. The hundreds of harms and the thousands of harms occurring in this region will cease. Venerable Transcendent Victor, whatever region of the King of humans, the devout monks who hold the King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light, visit these very regions will be visited by the King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light. Venerable Transcendent Victor, should a King of humans listen to the King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light, and heaven listen, should be he then give protection, give refuge, care for, and save those monks from all their enemies. Then Venerable Transcendent Victor, we, the 4 great kings, will protect, give refuge, care for, save, and give peace and well-being to the beings living in the entire country of the King of humans. Venerable Transcendent Victor, should a King of humans help bhikshus, bhikshunis, upsakas, or upasakas to hold this King of Sutras, providing with all conducive resources, then we will, the 4 kings, will ensure that all beings in the entire country of that King of humans possesses excellent well-being and resources. Venerable Transcendent Victor, when a King of human respects, honours, and offers service to the bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, and upasakas who hold the King of Sutra, then Venerable Transcendent Victor, we, the 4 great kings, will greatly respect, greatly honour, and greatly offer service, and greatly worship the King of humans. We will praise him in all regions. Then the Tathagata congratulated the four great kings. Excellent, excellent, O great king. Excellent, O excellent, you four great kings. It is like this. You have offered astonishing service to previous Buddhas, produced roots of virtue, honored hundreds of thousands of millions of Buddhas, abided by the Dharma and professed the Dharma, and through the Dharma you have become kings of gods and humans. It is like this. For a long time you have held a caring mind for all beings, a loving and giving mind resolutely set in the special resolve to bring benefit and happiness to all sentient beings. You have averted the unhelpful, you have preserved to achieve complete happiness for all beings. O you four great kings, do guard, give refuge, guard, care for, avert retribution, and ensure the peace and happiness of the kings of sublime, kings of humans who venerate and honor this King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light. In this way, you four kings with your armies, retinues, and numerous hundreds of thousands of yakshas will thoroughly safeguard the Dharma system, past, present, and future Buddhas. You will also preserve and retain it. Then you four great kings, along with your armies, retinues, and numerous hundreds of thousands of yakshas, will be victorious in the battle of gods and demigods. The demigods will be routed. In this way, the King of Glorious Sutra, the sublime golden light, subjugates the armies of adversaries. O four great kings, therefore, do guard, give refuge, guide, care for, and ensure peace and happiness of the bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, and upasikas who uphold the King of Glorious Sutra, the sublime golden light. Then the great king of Vishwavana, the great king Dhritarashtra, the great king Bhradaka, and the great king Virupaksha rose from their seats, put their upper robes over one shoulder, and knelt on their right knees. Bowing in reverence in the direction of the Tathagata, they spoke thus. Venerable Transcendent Victor, whatever in the future in villages, cities, towns, country vales, in the whole city and in royal courts and wherever regions of the city, King of humans it may reach, if the King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light, is utilized by a certain king of humans to wield sovereign authorities according to the treatise on kingship called the Inviolable Commitment of Divine Kings, and if he can listens to, venerates, and worships the King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light, or reveres, venerates, worships, and honors bhikshunis, upasakas, upasikas, who up this King of Sutras and listens to the King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light, then through the water of listening to the Dharma and the nectar of the Dharmas, the divine bodies of the four great kings, their retinues, and numerous hundreds of thousands of yakshas will increase immensely in majesty. We will receive perseverance, energy, and power. Our majestic glory and general excellence will be increased. Venerable Transcendent Victor, we the four great kings, along with our enemies, using numerous hundreds of thousands of yakshas, will make our bodies invisible. Now and in the future, we'll visit any place, villages, cities, towns, countries, vales, royal courts, and the nation, and the entire nation where this King of Glorious Sutras, the blind golden light, is utilized. We will perpetually protect, give refuge, guide, look after, avert retribution, and ensure peace and happiness of the King of humans, who listens to, venerates, and worships the King of the Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light. We will perpetually protect, give refuge, guide, look after, avert retribution, and ensure peace and happiness. The royal courts, their lands and regions, we will free these lands from all fear, harm, and conflicts, invading armies were eternal. Should a hostile king encroach upon the King of humans who listens to, venerates, and worships the King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light, the venerable transcendent Victor, should this hostile encroaching king think to himself, with the four divisions of my army, I'll march to the regions and destroy it. Then venerable transcendent Victor, that time, at that moment, by the power of the majesty of the King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light, a battle will take place between the hostile king and the other king. Even if the other kings retreat to his own kingdom, there will be conflicts between the regions. There will be fierce troubles for the other king. There will be planetary afflictions and sickness in his territory. Hundreds of different disturbances will break out in the land. Venerable Transcendent Victor, should the invading king go back to his land, there will be hundreds of different disturbances and hundreds of different urgent problems. Venerable Transcendent Victor, if the hostile king builds up the four divisions of his army and advances to meet a foreign power, leaving his land behind, and pressing ahead with the four divisions of his army to that foreign land, and if the land he seeks to overrun is a land where the King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light, exists, then Venerable Transcendent Victor, where the four great kings, along with their armies, retinues, and glorious, numerous hundreds of thousands of yakshas will make our bodies indivisible and go there. But even before it enters the land, we will turn back this foreign army in that very spot. We will create hundreds of difficult situations for him and cause obstacles. Thus, the foreign army of the hostile king will not be able to enter this land, much less cause destruction to it. Then the Tathagata rejoiced, congratulated the four great kings and said, Excellent, excellent, O great king. You four great kings, again, excellent, you have performed perfectly the 400s of thousands of millions of eons. For the sake of this peerless, perfect enlightenment, do protect, safeguard, look after, avert retribution, ensure peace and happiness of the King of humans who listens to, venerates, and worships the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light. Likewise, do protect, save, guide, look after, avert traditions, and ensure peace and happiness of this world, courts, cities, lands, and regions. Do set free these lands from all the fear, harm, and strife. Do turn back foreign armies. Do take delight in ensuring the King of Jambavuba do not fight, do not lurch, do not dispute or wage war. Even the 84,000 cities in this Jambavuba, 84,000 kings remain immensely happy and contented in their own land, remain immensely happy with power of their kingdoms, do not intimidate each other. With stockpiles of wealth, do not generate violence against each other, are contented with the lordship of a king over their kings achieved according to the karma they have gathered, do not threaten one another, and do not advance to destroy land, but instead of the 84,000 kings or the 84,000 cities in this Jambavuba have loving thoughts for each other, then should come loving and caring thoughts, and do not fight, allege, dispute, or wage war, and remain very happy in their own lands. Then as a result of this, you 4 great kings with your armies and retinues will flourish. That region will have years of good harvest, will be relaxed and happy, and the land will be full of people and men. The land will become lush. Seasons, months, fortnights, and entire years will be marked by abundance and plenty. The planets, stars, moon, sun, day and night will move smoothly. Rain will continually fall at the same time. All beings in the whole Jambavuba will be rich with wealth and grain. They will be wealthy. They will not be miserly. Instead, they will be generous. They will follow the path of the 10 virtuous deeds. Most of them will be born into the worlds of high states of existence. The divine lands of gods will be full of gods and their divine children. O great kings, suppose a certain being became a king of humans. If he then listens to and venerates the worship of this King of Glory Sutra, sublime golden light, and also if he respects, reveres, venerates, and worships bhikshunis, the Visakhas of those who uphold this King of Glory Sutra, the sublime golden light, and if out simply for you, 4 great kings, along with your armies. Use and many thousands of yakshas, he continually listens to this King of Glory Sutra, sublime golden light. Then with the nectar of the 24 Dharma teachings, you'll satisfy your bodies. The great majesty of your divine bodies will increase, yielding to perseverance, energy, and power, and this will increase your majesty, glory, and excellence. This King of humans will make exceedingly real, vast blossoms to me, the Tathagata of your heart, the perfectly enlightened Buddha Sakyamuni. With all these unconceivably great, vast, and material resources, this King of humans will make offerings to hundreds of thousands of years of past, future, and present Tathagatas too. Therefore, great protection will be accorded to the King of humans. Therefore, the King of humans will be fully protected, saved, looked after, and guided. His retribution will be virtue, his peace, and happiness ensured. His sublime Queen, all children, retinues of the Queen, and all retinues of the royal court will be fully protected and saved, looked after, and guided. Their retribution will be reverted, and their peace and happiness assured. Likewise, all the deities dwelling in the palace will be endowed with heightened majesty, power, and inconceivable peace and bliss. They will experience manifold joys. The cities and lands too will be fully protected and looked after, will be without harm or without enemies. They will not be trodden over, harmed, or attacked by a rival enemy. When he spoke thus, the great king Vishwavana, the great king Jaratista, the great king Viradaka, and the great king Vipaksha addressed the Tathagata in this way: Venerable, transcendent, victorious, should a certain king of humans seek to listen to this King of Glory Sutra, the sublime golden light, seek great protection for himself and for his sublime queen as well as the princesses and retinues of the queen. Should he seek the great inconceivable, supreme, and supreme, purest peace and well-being for the retinues of the palace, should he seek to increase in that life the great and superb power of the sovereign friendship, to become endowed with inconceivable greatness, to hold an inconceivable stock of merit, to protect his entire land, guarded and shielded without harm, without enemy, and not overrun by the rival enemy, without infection, disease, and without trouble. Then Venerable transcended victor, that King of humans, with an undistracted mind filled with respect and veneration, should honor and listen to this King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light. In order to listen to this King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light, the King of humans will go to an exalted palace. Having arrived there, he will sprinkle the palace with water, various perfumes, and strew it with various flowers. And when the palace has been sprinkled with water, various perfumes, and strewn with various flowers, he will set up a Dharma throne well adorned with various ornaments. That place will be well embellished with various umbrellas, victorious banners, and flags. This King of humans will wash his body, put on well-perfumed clothes, and wear new attire, adorn himself with various ornaments. He will lay a much lower seat for himself. Once seated on that seat, he will cease to be a haughty and with that pride of a king. In that place, he will not experience craving for domain of his kingdom. With a mind that is free from pride, arrogance, and haughtiness, he will listen to the King of Glory Sutra as a sublime golden light. He will generate the awareness of Sikhs and monks who explains the Dharma as the teacher. As a time at that moment, the king of humans will look with affection and kindness upon the sublime queen, princesses and retinues of the queen. He will speak kind words to his sublime queen. Princes and princess, he will also speak kind words to the retinue of the queen. To celebrate hearing the Dharma, a myriad of offering will be assembled. He will say to himself with previously unfound inconceivable joy. He will be blissful through the inconceivable joy and peace. His sense will be blissful. He will resolve to achieve the higher purpose. With this great joy, he will have laden himself, filling with joy. Very joyous, he will see the expound of the Dharma. When they said this to him, the Tathagata said to this in four great kings. O great kings of this time, at that moment, the king of humans will clothe himself all in white. Like covered in beautiful clothing, he will adorn himself exquisitely with various ornaments. He will hold white umbrellas as well. With great royal might and pageantry, taking various auspicious items, he will leave the palace in order to receive the expound of the Dharma as well, because of as many hundreds of thousands and millions of eons as the worlds. As the numbers of steps he has taken, there he will shun cyclic existence. For as many hundreds of thousands and millions of eons as the number of steps he will take will be obtained Chakravartin and kingship. In that life, his royal domain will increase inconceivably by the number of steps he takes. He will obtain expansive dwellings, a divine palaces made of 7 jewels for many hundreds of thousands and millions of eons. A king of the human race, he will obtain numerous hundreds of thousands of noble and divine palaces. In all his births, he will obtain great domain. He will have longevity. He will sustain life for a long period. He will be endowed with confidence and eloquence. His words will be worthy of remembrance. He will be famous. He will be widely talked about. He will be worthy of praise. He will bring goods to the worlds of gods, humans, and demigods. He will obtain the grand limitless bliss of gods and humans. He will be powerful. He will possess the powerful strength of a great crowd and be material. He will be good looking and attractive. He will be endowed with supreme complexity. In all his births, he will meet Tathagatas. He will find virtuous friends and behold in a couple stock of merit, a great king, seeing the benefits of virtue. The king of humans will generally will go nearly 1 league to receive the expound of the Dharma. He will go 100 leagues, 1,000 leagues to receive the expound of the Dharma. He will generate a sense of seeing the expound of the teacher. He will then think of himself, today the Tathagata, their heart, the fully enlightened Shakyamuni Buddha will enter my palace to get together. Today the Tathagata, their heart, the fully enlightened Shakyamuni Buddha will enjoy a meal in my place. Today I will hear the Tathagata, their heart, the fully enlightened Shakyamuni Buddha's Dharma, I see and like anything in the world. Today my hearing the Dharma, I will advance irreversibly to the purest perfect enlightenment. Today I will place many hundreds of thousands of millions of Tathagatas. Today I will make expensive, conceivable great offerings to past, future, and present Buddhas. Today I will utterly sever continuing of all sufferings for beings in the worlds of hell. And today I will plant seeds of virtue to obtain several hundreds of thousands of millions of bodies of Brahma King. Today I will plant seeds of merit to obtain several hundreds of thousands of millions of bodies of Chakras. I'll plant seeds of merit to obtain several hundreds of thousands of millions of rebirths as a Chakravartin King. Today I'll be free from psychic existence for 100,000 of millions of beings. Today I will hold a rock stock of merit that is inconceivable, great, vast, and incalculable. Today I will accord great protection to the entire circle of Queen's retinues. Today here in the palace I will give inconceivable, supreme, excellent, matchless, great peace and happiness to beings. Today I will cause the entire land to be protected, guarded, free from harm and enemies, and undefeated by all foreign enemies, free of infectious disease and free of conflict. A great king of that king of humans should respect, revere, veneration, worship Bhikshunis, Upasakas, and Upasakas who uphold this king of glorious sutras, the sublime golden light, out of such devotion to the sublime Dharma. And should he give the best share of merit thus acquired to you, the 4 great kings, along with your names, armies, retinues, assemblies of gods, universes, hundreds of thousands of lectures, then that human king's accumulation of merit and virtue and the considerable graduate life and royalty will increase greatly. In that life the king will be endowed with inconceivable majesty. He will be adorned with glory and considerable glory, excellence, and majestic charisma. He will utterly rid out all adversaries and enemies in accordance with the Dharma. When he spoken thus, the 4 great kings said to this Tathagata, suppose a certain being became a king of humans with such devotion to the Dharma, should listen to the King Glorious Sutra, the sublime golden light, and likewise respect, revere, venerate, and worship Bhikshunis, disciples and disciples who behold this King of Glorious Sutra, the sublime golden light. Should he thoroughly sweep and clean his palace for the sake of us, the 4 great kings, sprinkle it with glorious perfume, water, and hear the Dharma along with us 4 great kings, and then for his own sake and for the sake of all gods, should he give away a little share of merit, roots then venerable assurance and victor for the sake of us. of all great kings, as soon as the bhikshus expound the Dharma, takes it down the city on. He will light various fragrance and necks and funerals in this victor as soon as the perfumes and scents are lit for the purpose of worshipping this King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light, finds the various fragrance of perfumes will shoot forth. In that instant, second, and moment, in the sky above us, 4 great kings will be emerged, umbrellas made of vines of various incense and perfumes, tremendous fragrance of perfume will be sent, light like the gold, like that of a gold will arise, and this light will illuminate our dwellings. Venerable transcendent victory in the instant, second, and moment. The vines of incense and perfume will appear in the sky above the dwellings of Brahma, Lord of the fearless world, Indra, king of the gods, the great goddess Sarvasti, the great goddess Radha, the great goddess Shri, the great goddess Shmanya, the great general of the Yakshas, along with the 28 generals of the Yakshas, Maheshavara, the divine son Vajrapani, the great general of the Yakshas, Mahabhadra, the great general of the Yakshas, Haririji, with a retinue of 500 sons, and of Vitapata, king of Nagas, and Sagrara, the great king of Nagas. The umbrella of various incense and perfumes will remain floating in their dwellings. Exorbitant fragrance of perfume will be sent. Golden lights will flood their abodes, and their lights will illuminate all their dwellings. When they said this to him, the Sadhagatas replied in this way to the 4 great kings: O great kings, it is not just that the umbrellas made of vines of various incense and perfume will rise in the sky above the dwellings of you 4 great kings alone. Why? It is also because a great king, as soon as you 4 great kings alone. Why? It is also because a great king, as soon as that king of human lights various incense in order to worship the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light. Vines of these various incense and perfumes will appear from the single stick of incense that he holds in his hand. And in that instant, second, and moment, in the entire triple and great thousand world systems in which there exist 1,000 million moons, 1,000 million suns, 1,000 million great oceans, 1,000 million Sumerus, the kings of mountains, 1,000 million Chakravartas and Macharavadas, and the king of mountains, 1,000 million world systems of the 4 continents, and 1,000 million gods in the glass, and the 4 great kings, 1,000 million gods of the 33rd abode of the desire realm, 1,000 million gods of neither awareness nor unawareness of the formless realm, and in the abodes of 1,000 million gods of 33, and all these triple thousand great thousands of world systems, and in the sky above the respective dwellings of the assemblies of gods, Nagas, Akshas, Gandharvas, Asuras, Garudas, and Kanaras, and Maharagas, the vines of various incense and perfume will afloat. These beings will smell fragrance and exalted perfume. Golden light will flood in their own dwellings and illuminate them. The great kings in this way, just as the king above the dwellings in the triple great thousand world systems, those lines of incense and perfumes will abide in his umbrellas. As soon as that king of human lights various incense in order to worship the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light, by the power of the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light, there will appear vines of various incense and perfume. At that instant, second, and moment, all sides in the 10 directions and enormous world systems, as many as hundreds of thousands of millions of Buddhist fields, equaling grains of sand in the river Ganges, and in the sky above as many hundreds of thousands of millions of Tathagatas climb, equaling grains of sand in the river Ganges, umbrellas made of vines of various incense and perfumes will appear. These will smell profusely as incense and perfumes for the hundreds of thousands of millions of Buddhas. There will be golden light, and that light will illuminate as many hundreds of thousands of millions of Buddhist fields, equaling the grains of sand in the river Ganges. O great kings, as soon as these miracles have taken place, in as many as hundreds of thousands of millions of Tathagatas as there are grains of sand in the river Ganges, will recognize the founder of the Dharma. Thou congratulate him, excellent, sublime being. It is most marvelous that you, a sublime being, wishes to preach extensively the great feature of the King of the Glory Sutra. The sublime golden light, which is possessed in single qualities such as the illumination of the profound. If even these lights were here, beings were here, the King. Words of virtue, one that is there to say this will take it up, hold it with some understanding, expound extensively in assembly. Also, great words of virtue. Why? Because they sublime beings, since they are here, the King of Glory Sutra, sublime golden light, since hundreds of thousands of millions of bodhisattvas of friends and most willing to perfect enlightenment. Then hundreds of thousands of millions of Tathagatas residing in the respective Buddhist fields in their 10 directions, hundreds of thousands of millions of Buddhist fields as numerous as the grains of sand in the Ganges, with one word, one voice and one sound proclaimed to the preaching bhikshus seated on the Dharma Sutra, sublime being in the future you will advance to the final state of enlightenment. A sublime being having gone to the sublime essence of enlightenment, sitting on the foot of the King of Trees, you will display You will display transcendent over all the tripled realms. You will display numerous hundreds of thousands and millions of austere deeds, most inspiring these triple worlds, surpassing those of all beings. The sublime being, you will thoroughly glorify the instance of all enlightenment. The sublime being, you will thoroughly assemble these triple thousands of world systems. A sublime being, sitting at the foot of the king of trees, you will do a triumph over the conceivable army of Maras, which display the most repulsive, triumphant repulsive forms of various variances. A sublime one, having gone to the supremely sublime essence of enlightenment, you will attain the complete state of enlightenment, which is peerless, perfect, and consummate, incomparable, utterly serene, without dust, and profound. A sublime being seated upon the immutable branches, that you will turn the wheel of Dharma, which is praised by all the holders of Dharma, was to be 12-fold, supreme, profound, or sublime being, you will beat the supreme Dharma, a sublime being, you will sound the supreme conch of the Dharma, a sublime being, you will hoist the great banner of Dharma, a sublime being, you will light the supreme torch of the Dharma, a sublime being, you will reign the supreme reign of Dharma, a sublime being, you will be victorious over numerous thousand afflictions, a sublime being, you will free numerous hundreds of thousands and millions of sentient beings from the terrifying ocean of fear, a sublime being, you will free hundreds of thousands of millions of sentient beings from the wheel of cyclic existence, a sublime being, you will please hundreds of thousands and millions of Buddhas. As you spake this, the lector of all great kings replied to the Tathagata, Venerable Transcendent Victor. Upon seeing this, the king of humans who perceived the king of glorious sutras, the sublime golden light, has such qualities as these in present and future lives, that he will generate roots of virtue under the hundreds of thousands of Buddhas, and that will hold incalculable stocks of merit. Then compassion. And compassion, Venerable Transcendent Victor, we the four great kings, along with the armies, retinues, and numerous hundreds of thousands of yakshas, while in our own respective dwellings, as soon as we have been encouraged by the umbrellas made of vines, incense, and perfumes, will render our bodies invisible and go to the palace of the king of humans to listen to the dharmas. The palace built by the king of humans, which is well swept and clean, sprinkled with water of various perfumes, and exquisitely adorned with various ornaments. Brahma, lord of the fearless world, Indra, king of the gods, the great steward, great goddess Klaravasti, the great goddess Radha, the great goddess Sri Samanyaya, great general of the Yakshas, along with the 28 generals of the Yakshas, Mahaswara, the divine son of Hashrapani, the great general of the Yakshas, Manyabhadra, great general of the Yakshas, Hariti, with a retinue of 500 sons, Anaparata, king of Nagas, Sagara, the great king of Nagas, and numerous hundreds of thousands of millions of gods and goddesses will all make their bodies invisible and approach the palace of the king of humans, which is well adorned, and whereon the flower-strewn ground is set up for the expounder of the Dharma, a high seat well decorated with various ornaments. Venerable Transcendent Victor, we are the four kings, along with their army and retinues, including numerous hundreds of thousands of yakshas, will be agreeable to the king as soon as we have been satiated with the nectar juice of the Dharma by the king of humans. Whose assisting virtuous causes, being to receive virtue and bestow the supreme generosity and peerless Dharma, we will fully protect the human kings. We will also guide, care for, ensure peace and happiness for him. We will also protect this palace, cities and regions. Will save, guide, look after, ensure peace and happiness, and avert retribution for beings in this palace. Places will ensure that the region is free of all threats, harms, injustices, and conflicts. Venerable Transcendent Victor, suppose a certain being became a king of humans, and in the land of the king of humans there exists the king of glorious sutras, the sublime golden light. Venerable Transcendent Victor, if that king of humans does not respect, revere, venerate and worship bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, and upasikas who uphold the king of glorious sutras, the sublime golden light, then he will not satisfy us four kings and numerous hundreds of thousands and millions of yakshas with the hearing of the Dharma and the nectar of juice of the Dharma. He will not venerate us. These divine bodies of ours will not increase in majesty, perseverance, might, and power will not be enhanced. Majesty, glory, and excellence will not increase in our bodies. Venerable Transcendent Victor, we four great kings, along with their armies and retinues and numerous hundreds of thousands and millions of yakshas, will neglect the land. Venerable Transcendent Victor, when we neglect the land, then all the assembly of goddesses who dwell in the land will also neglect the land. Venerable Transcendent Victor, when the gods and goddesses discard the land, there will be various conflicts in the land. There will be fierce disputes upon the kings. All beings living in the land will become quarrelsome, accusatory, and contentious. They will be divided and ruined. The land will experience various illness and unfavorable planets. Comets will fall from various directions. Planets and stars will become hostile with one another. Moonrise at night will seem like the rising of the sun. There will be lunar and solar eclipses. Even the sun, the moon, and the sky will be attacked continuously by Rahu. From time to time, halos of the sky, halos of the colour of rainbows will appear in the sky. There will be earthquakes. The wells in the ground of hell's will sound. Of hail or sounds. Gale force winds will blow in the land. There will be a torrential rainfall. There will be desert famine in the land. Rival armies will crush the land. The land will be filled with swarms of bees. Beings will experience rampant affliction. The land will become most unpleasant. Venerable transcendent victor when we, the four great kings, along with their armies and numerous hundreds and thousands of yakshas, nagas live in the land, and gods goddesses all ignore it. There will arise hundreds of these unsimilar harms of thousands of arms in that land. Venerable transcendent victor suppose a certain being became a king of humans if he seeks to provide great protection for himself, to experience various regal joys, to exercise his sovereignty with an intention to give all happiness and well-being to every being living in the land, to defeat the entire rival army, to reign all over the land for a great length of time, to be a Dharma king, to be free, to free his land from all fear, harm, contagious disease and conflict. The king of humans, Venerable transcendent victor, will undoubtedly hear the king of glorious sutras, the sublime golden light. He will speak revere, venerate and worship bhikshus, bhikshunis, sudasakas and upasakas who uphold the king of glory sutras. We, the four great kings, along with our armies and witnesses, will be satisfied by roots and fruits you can gathered from listening to the Dharma and by the nectar juice. By the nectar juice of the Dharma, these divine bodies of ours will increase in majesty. Why? Because Venerable transcendent Victoria, the king of humans, will undoubtedly listen to the king of glory sutras, the sublime golden light. Venerable transcendent victor, the king of glory sutras, the sublime golden light, unsurpassably surpass the many various mundane and supramundane treatises expounded by Brahma lords. The many various mundane and supramundane treatises expounded by Shakra, the king of gods, and the many various mundane and supramundane treatises expanded by the sacred sentient beings by seers possessed of the five extrasensory perceptions. It is perfectly and widely expounded for the sake of sentient beings by the Tathagata, who is more supreme and exalted than hundreds of thousands of Lord Brahmas, numerous hundreds of thousands of millions of Shvakras, and thousands and hundreds of thousands of millions of seers possessed of the five extrasensory perceptions. King of Sutras. Sutras, the sublime golden light, is expounded so the king of humans in Jampavipa may be supreme, reigning kings. All beings may be happy, fully protect the lands and reigning in their lands, that their lands may be without harm and enemies, that they may defeat the armies of adversaries and turn them away, that there may be no infectious illness and conflict in these lands, that through the Dharma these lands may be without conflict and be overrun, that these kings of humans may light the great torch of the Dharma and illuminate their lands, that all the divine dwellings may be filled with gods and divine children, that we, the four great kings, along with armies and witnesses and numerous hundreds of thousands of shakshas, and all the gatherings of gods dwelling in Jampavippa may be certified, that all may be auspicious, that these divine bodies of ours may increase in majesty, that perseverance, power and strength may be instilled in our bodies, that majesty, glory and excel may flow into our bodies, that Jampavippa may have good crops and be filled with people, and that all beings dwelling in Jampavippa may be happy and experience various pleasures, that all sentient beings may have various joys and experience magnificent joys of gods and humans, for numerous hundreds of thousands and millions of years find the company of our Lord Buddha in some virtue, beauty, enlightenment, the peerless state of perfect enlightenment. The Venerable transcendent victor, the Tathagata, the heart, the fully enlightened Buddha possesses blessings infused by the power of the great compassion, exceedingly superior to that of hundreds of thousands of millions of Brahma lords. Unsurpassable Tathagata knowledge, exceedingly superior to the knowledge of thousands of millions of Shvakaras. And blessings exceedingly superior to that of numerous hundreds of thousands of millions of various seers possessed of the five extrasensory perceptions. The Venerable transcendent victor of the Tathagata, the fully enlightened Buddha, has widely and perfectly expounded high in Jampavippa, the king of glory sutras, as a blind golden light for the sake of sentient beings. Whatever royal views, royal truths and royal duties there are in the whole of Jampavippa, which ensures happiness for sentient beings, all have been revealed, stated and expounded by the Venerable transcendent victor, the Tathagata, the heart, the fully enlightened Buddha, the king of glory sutras, the sublime golden light, venerable transcendent victor. For this reason, for this cause, the king of humans will undoubtedly listen to and venerate the worship the King of Glory Sutra, the sublime golden light. As I said this to him, the Venerable Translator, and thus said thus to them, therefore, O General, you great four kings with your armies and retinues, who take unhesitating great delight in protecting the kings of units, to listen to, respect, and worship the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light. O great kings, do let bhikshus, bhikshunis, upsakas, and upasikas who hold the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light, uphold Buddha deeds. They will perform Buddhist deeds in the worlds of God, humans, and asuras. They will expand the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light, well and extensively. You four great kings, by all means, will protect, safeguard, guide, look after, and ensure the peace and happiness of the bhikshus, upasakas, and upasikas who hold the King of Glory Sutras, so they may be secure without harm, ailments, or conflicts, and endowed with peace of mind, enabling to expound the King of Glory Sutras, the blind golden light, well and extensively. Then indeed the great king of Shravana, the great king of Drashtastra, the great king of Rudaka, and the great king of Abhaksha rose from their seats, placed their upper robes over one shoulder, knelt their right knees on the ground, and bowed in reverence to their folded hands, pointing in the direction of Tathagata. At that time they praised the Tathagata in supreme fitting voice. The conquer your form is the flawless full moon. Full moon, the conquer your thousand ray light is the sun. I conquer your eyes are the stainless lotus petal. I conquer your teeth are the flawless lotus stem. I conquer your virtues like the ocean are the source of myriad jewels. The conquer your ocean is filled with wisdom water, and with 100,000 concentrations to conquer the souls of your feet are inscribed with wheels perfectly round and with 1,000 spokes. Your hands and feet are knitted by webs of light. The webs of your feet resemble those of kings of geese. I conquer you are like a golden mountain. I conquer the flawless king of the golden mountain. Your virtues are like Mount Semeru. We worship you. I conquer the lord of the mountain. The Tathagata is like the fully waxed moon, and likewise resembles and takes after space. We prostrate to the flawless conqueror. Then the Tathagata spoke these verses to the four great kings. O you, the four guardians of the world, safeguard with utmost effort the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light of the 10 powers. In this way, this profound, precious sutra that bestows goodness upon all creatures will abide long in the Jambhavipa to bring solace and benefit to beings. In this way, the suffering of the lower realms, or suffering of hell and beings in the hell realms of 1,000 worlds will be utterly pacified. Here in this Jambhavipa, all the kings of the land will feel intense great joy and will rule according to the Dharma. One who makes Jambhavipa tranquil is extremely bountiful and full of joy, will make beings in the whole of Jambhavipa full of peace. Here the lords of humans will delight in bringing to them on their land, and who find joy in making the kingdoms prosperous should listen to the King of Glory Sutras. This King of Glory Sutras fully destroys external enemies, fully turns back legion of foreign armies, removes the fear of the purified and poor, and causes supreme virtue. Just as the jewel tree intensely beautiful and the source of all virtue stands as in a peace in a house, so should the Supreme King of Sutras be viewed by those who desire the virtue of kings. Just as cool water quenches the thirst of one who is tortured by heat, so does the Supreme King of Sutras satisfy kings suppressed by thirst of virtue. Like having a jewel box, the source of jewels sitting in the palm of one's hand, the Supreme King of Sutras, supplying golden light, acts thus for the lords of humans, venerated by assembly of gods and worshipped by kings of gods. This King of Sutras is carefully guarded by four world protectors possessed of battery and magic power. The Buddhists of the 10 directions continue to remember this King of Sutras. When the King of Sutras expounded, Buddhists bestow rejoicing or said remarks. Further 100,000 million yakshas will protect lands in the 10 directions where this King of Sutras is heard with keen interest and great joy. The inconceivable hosts of gods who dwell in Jambhavipa will listen to this King of Sutras with great joy. The gods will obtain charisma, power, and enthusiasm. Their enchanting divine forms will wax and wax greatly. Upon hearing such verses, these from the Tathagata, the four great kings were amazed, enthralled, and delighted. Moved by the power of the Dharma, they were overcome by emotions and become tearful. Then, wiping away their tears, endowed with inconceivable joy, happiness, and gladness, their bodies upright, their limbs quivering, they strew the Tathagata profusely with divine mandala flowers. Having strewn the Tathagata with flowers, they rose from their seats, put their upper robes over their one shoulder, knelt their right knees on the ground, and bowed to the Tathagata. Folding their hands in reverence, they observed thus to him: O Venerable Transcendent Victor, in order to protect and care for the bhikshus and expand the dharma, we, the four kings, each with 500 yakshas, will always follow after him. This concludes the 7th chapter of the chapter of the four great kings from the King of Glory Sutra, the Sublime Golden Light. And the great goddess Saravasti put her upper robe over one shoulder, knelt on her right knee and bowing to the great reverence with her hands folded. The Tathagata spoke thus: O venerable transcendent victory, I, the goddess Saravasti, will also bestow eloquence in order to adorn the speech of the bhikshus who expound the Dharma. I will grant him Dharani. I will also invest in him the power of authority speech. To the bhikshu who expounds the Dharma, I will give great illumination of knowledge. If he loses or forgets a word or letter from the King of Glory Sutras, the supplying golden light, I will supply the bhikshus who expound the Dharma with all definite sounds, letters and words. I will grant him Dharani to prevent it being lost, so that the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light, may last long without disappearing from the Champa-vipa for the sake of sentient beings who plant roots of virtue before hundreds of thousands of Buddhas, the transcendent lords, so that these numerous sentient beings may develop incessantly sharp wisdom upon hearing the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light, may receive an inconceivable wealth of wisdom, possess excellent energy in the present life, and enjoy an sense of life, increasing life force, come to hold inconceivable masses of merit, seek various creative methods, be learnt in all trees, and hold excellent expertise in various arts and crafts. I'll explain the art of bathing blessed with mantra and aromatic medicine for the welfare of the bhikshus who expands the Dharma, and for beings who listen to the Dharma. This will pacify all afflictions caused by planets, shooting stars, births and deaths. This will bring an end to conflicts, quarrels and wars, disorder, nightmares, afflictions from Vinaya and all sorcerers and zombies. Aromatic medicines and mantras which the wise bath Vacha Garachana. Spruka Shirisa Shamayaka Shami Indrabasta Mahabhaga Janamaka Agara Mislak Shrivasta Reason Sasha Shalaki Gogalu Tugara Patra Shalaya Chadana Manashila Sarachana Kushta Kunkama Musta Sashapa Nalada Javaya Sukshamala Ushira and Naga Kesara. Watching for Pushaya, the star, to arrive, make these into equal portions, then consecrate the powder with this mantle 100 times. Tayata Sakrati Karata Kamalijana Karate Hamarakarate Indrajali Shekadrapi Shadara Apa Dakashika Nakutraka Kapila Kapilamati Shilamati Sandi Duda Mahamabati Shri Satishita Swaha. Draw a magic circle with cow dung and scatter loose flowers there, and in a golden vessel and a silver vessel place the honey. Place their 4 men wearing armour and standing at guard. Place their 4 maids fully adorned and bearing vases, always incense with bdellium and playing the live cymbal music. Thoroughly adorn the goddesses with umbrellas, victory banners and flags. At intervals place mirrors, arrows and spears, then draw a boundary line and embark on what is to be done, reciting the following mantra to start the boundary delineation. Sayadaya Dana Araka Nayani Hili Mili Gili Kiki Hili Swaha. Bathing behind the image of Tathagata, recite the mantra to ensure peace during the bathing time. Tathagata Sangata Bigate Bhati Swaha. Protect life from you moving stars dwelling in all 4 directions. May the afflictions from stars of birth, fear due to actions and the terrible fear from disturbance of the dreams be removed. Tata Shame Vishnu Shame Swaha Sagate Bigate Swaha Sikataninate Swaha Sagarama Sama Bhagataya Swaha Skanda Dhamma Matraya Swaha Nilakantandaya Swaha Aparachide Bhaya Swaha Himabhata Tasiba Buddhagaya Swaha Animalaka Bhakatraya Swaha and Nemo Bhagate Brahmamane Nema Saravastaye Debuye Siddha Mahayatu Mantra Bada Dembrahma Anumanayatu Swaha. For the sake of the bhikshu who expound the Dharma, those who listen and those who write it down, I myself will go to that bathing site. Together with all the hosts of gods, I will ultimately eliminate all disease from temples, villages, cities and towns. I will complete pacifying the afflictions caused by planet strife and quarrel, stars, birth, nightmares, afflictions from Vinayaka, detractors and all sources and zombies, so that the life force of Bhikshus, Bhikshunis, Vipasakas, and Vasikas who hold the scheme of sutras is assisted that they receive release from samsara, advancing irreversibly to the perfect and fearless state of complete alignment, and be swiftly enlightened in the perfect and fearless state of the Buddhists. Then the Tathagata prays the goddess Saravasti in this way: excellent, great goddess Saravasti, you have come to this world to great benefit for many beings and to bestow well-being upon them. The words you spoke charged with spell and imprecatum and mendicaments were well spoken indeed. Then the goddess Saravasti bowed at the feet of the Tathagata and sat on this one side, then attracting the attention of the great goddess Saravasti. The Brahma teacher expounded Kundalini said, a great ascetic, the great goddess Saravasti is worthy of worship, a great mind of virtue. You bestow supreme boons in all worlds, supremely beautiful. You stand on one foot and are clothed in a garment made of grass. All the gods gathered here. Ask you thus, let loose your tongue, speak fine words of virtue to being. Sayada, Tayada, Dana, Muri, Ziri, Abhijayati, Hingule, Mingulabati, Mangushi, Marisi, Namati, Dashamati, Agrimakri, Tara, Chitarara, Chichiri, Shri, Miriji, Dranaya, Lokayara, Tea, Lokashari, Taratea, Lokapariye, Siddhi, Pariti, Bhimamala Mukahi, Suki Kari, Aparajita, Buddha, Namuchi, Mahadebe, Pratigarana, Mamasakaram. May my intellect be unimpeded, may diverse treatises and tantras, tripitakas, and poetic works become the boon of my magical knowledge incarnations. Tayata, Maharabha, Mili, through the magical power of the great goddess Ravasti, may I be victorious. Karate, Kayu, Karate, Karabati, Mili. By the power of the truth of the Buddhas, by the power of the truth of the Dharma, by the power of the truth of the Sangha, by the power of the truth of the Indra, by the power of the truth of Varuna, by the power of the truth of those who speak the words of truth in the world, and the power of the truth itself, I will invoke the great goddess Saravasti. Tayata, Mili. May I be totally victorious. Homage to the Bhagavati, the great goddess Saravasti, and may you lay the foundation of great and greatly success in my words of great mantra. Then the Brahmin teacher and expounded Kundalini sang the praise of the great goddess Saravasti. O you hordes of Buddhas, listen to me. I will sing praise of the virtue of the sublime goddess with a supremely immaculate face. She is the chief of goddesses, the finest among sublime women in the world, to the goddess Sarvakas, Gandharvas, and assured laws. She is adorned with limbs impelled with numerous virtues called Saravasti. She blazes with merit. Her eyes are broad, she is filled endowed with a pristine wisdom's virtue and resembles an array of precious jewels. I praise the virtue of supreme eloquence. She gives the supreme boon of sublime perfect metrics and qualities, immaculate pristine. She is like a blazing lighthouse. Her eyes are holy and incomparable. Source of riches, she sheds light to see virtue. She is adorned with inconceivable qualities. Her light is bright like the moon, and a mind of exalted wisdom and cool mindfulness. She is the finest lioness and vehicle for humans. She is adorned with 8 arms and appears like the full wax moon. Possessed of profound wisdom, she has a beautiful voice and a chanting song. An excellent being, she helps accomplish the highest goals, honoured by the lords of gods and truth. She is celebrated among divine Deva abodes in the realms of Buddha. She is continually worshipped. Swaha. I bow down to this goddess. May she grant me an exalted heap of virtue. May she grant success in every venture, and in the midst of my enemies always protect me. If one arises in the morning and clearly speaks these words in full, every syllable complete, all wishes will be granted. One will find wealth and gain and obtain immense virtue in every success. This ends the 8th chapter, the chapter on Saravasti from the King of Glory Sutra, the Sublime Golden Light. Then the great goddess Shri said this to the Tathagata: Venerable, transcendent Victoria, the great goddess Shri will also give delight and well-being to the bhikshus who expand the Dharma. I will offer garments, food, bedding, and medicine to treat illness, and many excellent articles to ensure that the bhikshus who expanded the Dharma had excellent resources, attained freedom from poverty, and sound in body. in mind, has peace of mind day and night, retains various words and syllables of the King of Glory Sutra, the sublime golden light, examines and expresses them lucidly so that the sentient beings may plant roots of virtue under hundreds of thousands of Buddhas, that the Kings of Glory Sutra, the sublime golden light, may long exist in Champa and may not quickly disappear, that beings may hear the King of Glory Sutra, the sublime golden light, and experience divine and human pleasures for hundreds of thousands and millions of eons, that famine may not occur, that there may be bountiful crops and beings that may have everything that promotes happiness, be with the Tathagatas, and in the future awaken to supreme perfect enlightenment, and the suffering of beings in the animal realms and the worlds of Yama may be totally ended. At one time there was a fully enlightened Tathagata called Ratna Kusuma Ganusagaravari Duranaika Nakarakari Rusuva Nara Naka Nachanana Brahma Shari, under whom the great goddess Shri planted roots of virtue. Now she ponders over different directions, watches over different directions, and goes to different directions. She brings well-being to numerous hundreds of thousands of millions of beings, providing them with food, drink, wealth, grain, shell, gold, jewels, pearls, lapis, conches, crystal, coral, silver, and pure unwrought gold. These beings will not suffer any shortage of other items either. They will receive everything they need and use through the power of the goddess of Shri. They will pay homage to that Tathagata. They will offer flowers, incense, and perfume. If the name of the great goddess Shri is said 3 times, if flowers, incense, and perfume are offered to the Tathagata, and to the Tathagata food of various tastes and flowers offered too, then the mass of grain will greatly increase. Thus here it is observed, the earth's nutrients will grow in the earth, the gods will always rejoice, the devas of fruit, crops, shrubs, and bushes will make every crop flourish in all directions. The great goddess Shri remembers those beings who recite the name of King of Glory Sutras, applying golden light. Thus they will be accorded great glory. The great goddess of Shri resides in the palace at Akavati, at the glorious park Punya Kasuma Prabha, in a sublime abode called Savra-shura, made of 7 jewels. Whoever wishes to increase the mass of grain should thoroughly clean his house, bathe well, and perfume, don clean, welcome, and paying homage to Ratna Kusuma Guna, etc. Ratna Kusuma Guna Sagara Varaduraya Kana Karagiri Suravana Kanchana Aprabhasa Shari, I think. The Tathagata, the Arhat, the fully enlightened one, they should say his name 3 times. Wow. With the insistence from the great goddess Shri, they should worship the Tathagatas by offering flowers, perfume, and incense, as well as a food of glorious tastes and flowers. They should recite the name of the King of Glory Sutra, the sublime golden light, 3 times. They should say the word of truth. Likewise, if the great goddess Shri is venerated, if flowers are offered as well as perfumes and food of glorious tastes, various tastes and flavors, then through the power of the King of Glory Sutra, the sublime golden light, the great goddess of Shri will watch over that house. The mass of grain in that house will increase. Those who wish to invoke the great goddess of Shri should remember the following mantras. Homage to all past, present, and future Buddhas. Homage to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Homage to the Bodhisattvas such as Maitreya. Paying homage to them, I will employ the following mantra. Through this mantra may I receive success. Sayadaya Tenadana Pratimura Navavari Samatana Dashine Bakate Samantapa Bedadana Gate Mahakara Mahayama Prayatiya Barambane Satavaya Artasa Manatane Upurapare Ayadane Dahamata Mahabogoni Mahamahitreya Upasami He Hayatiashe Samgiti De Tesamara Tahanu Palani. When conferring the initiation from the crown, these are unfailing words that perfectly grant realization of emptiness in one mantric word of suchness. Beings who are placed in the middle with roots of virtue free from unspeakable negativity should recite and hold this mantra for 7 years and observe the 8 precept ordination. Then so that they and all sentient beings may complete the wisdom of the omniscient, they should offer flowers and incense to the Buddhas in the morning and after and saying, may my wishes be swiftly fulfilled. Whether in a monastery or forest retreat, they should clean the dwelling, draw a circle of cow dung, offer incense and perfume, and provide clean seats. Scattering loose flowers on the ground, they should be seated. Then in that very moment, the great goddess Shri will appear and remain in that place. She will ensure there is never poverty in that house, village, city, town, monastery, or forest retreat. That place will be replete with all equipment, gold, jewels, wealth, and grain. Beings will be made comfortable with everything that provides comfort. Whatever roots of virtue they gather, the major share should be offered to the great goddess Shri. Then as long as they live, they or she will remain in that place, and all their wishes will be filled. This ends the 9th chapter, the chapter on Shri, the great goddess, from the King of Glory Sutras, the Sublime Golden Light. Homage to the Bhagavan Tathagata Ratna Shakan. Homage to the Bhagavan Tathagata Vimala Jivala Ratna Rashima Prabhasaketa. Homage to the Tathagata Savra-shura Jaman Buddha Vajra Jaka Nanchanaba. Homage to the Tathagata Juva Nama Bhasagarba. Homage to the Tathagata Suvarana Ayashatara Shimi Prabhashit Ketu. Homage to the Tathagata Suvanara Ratana Chakatuda. Homage to the Tathagata Suvarana Pashu Poji Javala Ramashime Homage to the Tathagata Mahapradipa. Homage to the Tathagata Ratnakutu. Homage to the Bodhisattva Ruchiraketu. Homage to the Bodhisattva named Suvaranabhashatoma, the Bodhisattva named Suvaranakaba, the Bodhisattva named Sadarapuradita, the Bodhisattva named Dharmodagata, the homage to the Tathagata in the east named Akshabaya, in the south the Tathagata named Ratnaketu, in the west the Tathagata named Amateus, and in the north the Tathagata named Dundadi Bisabara. Whoever holds, recites, and commits to memory the names of these Tathagatas and Bodhisattvas always remember their lives. Then the earth goddess Radha said to the Tathagata, O venerable transcendent Victor, now in the future in villages, cities, towns, valleys, forests, trees, valleys of medicinal shrubs or palaces, whatever the King of Glorious Sutras of Flying Golden Light remains, then O venerable transcendent Victor, Radha, the earth goddess will go to these places where the villages, cities, towns, valleys, forests, trees, valleys of medicinal shrubs or palaces of venerable transcendent Victor, wherever the King of Glory Sutras sublime golden light is expanded well in great light. Length, wherever the throne for the expounding bhikshu is set up, and wherever the expounding bhikshu takes that seat and perfectly teaches the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light of venerable transcendent Victor, I, Radha, the earth goddess, will go to those places. Invisible, I will go to the underside of the Dharma throne. With my most sublime head, I will support the expounding bhikshus by the soles of his feet. I will listen to the Dharma too and satisfy myself with the Dharma nectar. I will honour him. I will fully worship him. I will become content. I will complete deeds of honour. Being pleased, I will greatly enrich the essential nutrients of the earth from the mass of earth, 68,000 leagues in extent, to the Vajra base of the ground. I will do homage and consummate it. On the top of it too, I will moisten the earth sphere, the limits of the oceans, with the essential oil of the earth. I will make this great earth glow with radiant luster. Therefore the grasses, bushes, medicinal shrubs and forests and the Jamba will grow very lustrous. All various parks, forests, stately trees, leaves, flowers, fruit and crops will become extremely lustrous too. They will have sweet fragrance, essential oil and delicious taste. They will be beautiful to behold and be great in size. These beings will seek rich varieties of drink and food. With using this, they will be greatly grow in longevity, complexion and strength. Growing in majesty, strength and complexion, and possessing robust bodies, they will work to accomplish hundreds and thousands of different activities of this earth. They will persevere, they will strive, they will perform actions of the lean strength of venerable transcendent Victor through the beings Janavipa will be at peace, have good crops, prosper and abide in the state of serene joy. It will be populated by many living beings. All beings in Jambavippa will be happy and will experience a myriad of joys. These beings will have great complexion, robust bodies, charisma and strength. For the sake of the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light, I'll go towards the bhikshunis, upasakas and upasaka who holds the King of Sutras and who sits upon the Dharma seat. Having gone there for the well-being, happiness and sake of all sentient beings, and with a very lucid mind, I request these expounders to teach the King of Glory Sutra, the Sublime Golden Light, at great length. Why? Because the King of Glory Sutra, the Sublime Golden Length, is clearly taught then I, the earth goddess, along with my attendants, will come to have intense luster and immense strength. The teaching will generate in our bodies great strength, joyous resilience, and might. Our bodies will gain excellence, the charisma, and glory. Our venerable transcendent victor Idra's earth goddess will be satisfied by this Dharma nectar upon obtaining great charisma, strength, perseverance, and might. The essential to earth nutrients in this gem of over 7,000 will increase immensely. The great earth will become lustrous, our venerable transcendent victor. The beings who rely on the earth will increase, grow, and expand. They will become great. After beings who live in this earth have become great, they will enjoy material well-being, a variety of useful things. They will experience happiness. They will enjoy food and drink, various dried fruits, clothes, bedding, dwells, houses, palaces, parks, rivers, ponds, springs, lakes, small lakes, and whatever holes, water holes, and such various resources and energies that exist on earth are sourced from the earth and are earth dependent. Because of this, O venerable transcendent victor, all beings will be grateful and will pay my kindness. Undoubtedly, they will respect, listen to, honor, and venerate and worship the King of Glory Sutras that supply glorious light. O venerable transcendent victor, beings will leave from their separate homes and separate clans in order to be in the presence of the founder of the Dharma. Upon arriving there, they will listen to the King of Glory Sutras that apply golden light. After hearing it, they'll return to their respective clans, houses, villages, and towns, to those in the homes and to one another. They will say, today we have heard profound Dharma, today we hold an inconceivable mass of merit. The act of listening to the Dharma has delighted hundreds of thousands and millions of Tathagatas. Listening to the Dharma today, beings in the house will be completely freed. Beings in the world of yamas, animal, and hungry ghosts will be completely freed too. By listening to the Dharma today, in the future of many hundreds of thousands of births, we will be born as gods, humans. If those who reside in several homes were to show other beings, even just one example from the King of Glory Sutra, the supplying golden light, always would make other beings hear one scepter from the King of Glory Sutra, the supplying golden light, one account of past events, a name of just one bodhisattva, the name of one Tathagata, one stanza of 4 lines, just one word, or even just one. The name of the King of Glory Sutras, the supplying golden light, or O venerable transcendent victor. If these different beings in various places were to state the sutras, various lines of this reasoning to another being, or make them hear, or direct an account, then venerable transcendent victor, all those places will become extremely lustrous. The various earth nutrients and resources will grow profusely in this place for the sake of all beings, will increase and greatly expand. All beings in turn will be in a state of well-being. They will have great wealth and resources and will be inclined to generosity in the 3 jewels. They will have great faith. After being addressed in this way, the Tathagata said this in the earth, to the earth goddess Draha. O Draha, the earth goddess, if you have been any beings here, even one word of the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light. Then, after dying from this world, they will be born among the gods of the heaven of 33. O earth goddess, in order to venerate the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light, if any beings adorn these places by raising even a single umbrella, a single flag, or a single piece of light earth, these adorned places are earth goddesses will become divine places, made of 7 jewels, adorned with every ornament, and with the 7 classes of God dwelling in the Zaya realm. When these beings transmigrate from the world of humans, they will be reborn in those divine palaces made of 7 jewels. O earth goddess, those beings will be reborn 7 times in each of the divine palaces made of 7 jewels. They'll experience sincere divine bliss. After he spoke thus, the earth goddess Draha addressed the Tathagata in this way. Therefore, venerable transcendent victor Draha, the earth goddess, will dwell in this earth region which abide under the seat of the bhikshus who transcend the Dharma plane. So, let the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light, may last in the temple of Vega for beings who have planted roots of virtue under the hundreds and thousands of Buddhas, that it might not dissipate quickly, that beings in turn may turn the King of Glory Sutras, the sublime golden light, may in future time experience and receive the well-being of gods and years for numerous hundreds of thousands of billions of years, may be in the company of the Tathagatas in the future awake as supreme and perfect enlightenment. The suffering of all hell beings in all worlds and the worlds of yamas may be completely cut off. I will make my body invisible and lean the supreme part of the body, my heart, lean of the body, my head upon the soul of the bhikshus who expound the Dharma. This ends the 10th chapter of the 8th goddess Dra from the King of Glory Sutras, supplying golden light. Then the The great general of the Yakshas called Samjanaya, along with the 28 great generals of the Yakshas, rose from his seat, put his upper robe over one shoulder and knelt on his right knee. Bowing in reverence to the directions of the Tathagata, he addressed the Tathagatas in this way. The Venerable Lord, now and in future time, in villages, cities, towns, valleys, forests, retreats, hilly medicinal valleys, warm palaces, wherever the King of Glorious Sutras explain golden light exists. A Venerable Lord I, Shamanjanaya, the great general of the Yakshas, along with the 28 great generals of the Yakshas, will go to these villages, cities, towns, valleys, forests, retreats, hilly medicinal valleys, or palaces. Making our bodies invisible, we will protect the bhikshus who expand the Dharma. We will give him protection, hold and nurture him, even avert his retribution and make him peaceful and well. We will completely protect men, women, boys or girls who listen to this Dharma. We will completely protect those who listen to and remember a stanza of 4 lines in every single word from the King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light. We will completely protect those who hear and remember the name of the single bodhisattvas from the King of Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light, the name of the single Tathagatas or the name of the King of Glorious Sutras. As a sublime golden light, we will give them protection, hold and nurture them, avert their retribution and make them peaceful and well. We will also completely protect this class of people, hold the villages, cities, towns, forests, retreats and palaces. We'll give them protection, hold and nurture them and avert their retribution and make them peaceful and well. Our Venerable Lord, for that reason has my name become Sanjaya, the great general of the Yakshas, a transcendent victor, has direct knowledge of the reason of Venerable Lord, I seek all Dharma, thoroughly seek all Dharma and stand all Dharma. O Venerable Lord, whatever Dharmas are there, whatever the sections of the Dharmas and however they exist, whatever the myriad creators of all Dharmas, O Venerable Lord, all Dharmas are those known to me. O Venerable Lord, inconceivable is the illumination of my knowledge with regard to all Dharma. Inconceivable is the clarity of my knowledge, inconceivable is the extent of my knowledge, inconceivable is the body of my knowledge. O Venerable Lord, inconceivable is the extent of all Dharma is the object of my knowledge. O Venerable Lord, because I fully seek, fully examine, and perfectly comprehend, fully invest and fully internalize all Dharma. For this reason, O Venerable Lord, I, the great general of the Yakshas, have become Samanya by name. O Venerable Lord, I will give eloquence to the expounding bhikshu in order to adorn his words, in order that the expounding bhikshu is not physically fatigued, that the sense of his body are healthy, and that he may have immensely delight. I will inject radiance into his hair pores. In him I shall generate energy, prowess, and perseverance. I shall render the illumination of the knowledge inconceivable, cause him to receive his mindfulness and grant him great zeal, so that the King of the Glorious Sutras, the sublime golden light, may endure long into this Chambavipa. They may not quickly disappear, that beings who have planted roots of virtue under hundreds of thousands of Buddhists may in turn come to listen to the King of Glorious Sutras. The supreme golden light may achieve inseparable bodies of knowledge, be endowed with wisdom, hold inconceivable masses of merit, experience the inconceivable well-being of humans and guides of hundreds of thousands and millions of eons. Keep the company of Tathagatas, and in future times be awakened to supreme and perfect enlightenment, and that all suffering in the world, Yama, how beings and animals may utterly cease to exist. Homage to the Tathagata, the Arhat, the fully enlightened Ratna Sakakam. Ratna Kosagama Gunasaga Ravade Rayaka Kanakari Risu Ravana Naka Anachana Prabhasari, I think. Homage to the Tathagata, the Arhat, the fully enlightened Shakyamuni, whose body is adorned with hundreds of thousands of millions of virtues, and who make the light of this Dharma blaze forth. Homage to the great goddess Shri, endowed with marvelous virtue, creating a good fortune. Homage to the great goddess Shravasti, endowed with wisdom's limitless qualities. Then at that time, at that moment, the king Valindanratitu said this to his son, King Richiraketu, whom he had enthroned and who had not been in the royalty. Son, there is a royal treatise called the Inviolable Commitments of Divine Kings, which long after I was enthroned, I received from my father, King Valindanratitu. I reigned the kingdom for 20,000 years according to that royal treatise, and I do not recollect being on the wrong side for even a single moment of thought. O son, what then is this royal treatise, the Inviolable Commitments of Divine Kings? A noble goddess, at that time, at the moment, King Valindanratitu clearly expounded the Inviolable Commitments of Divine Kings, the royal treatise, to his son, King Richiraketu, in these verses. I'll explain the royal treatise which benefits all beings, cuts through misgivings, and extinguishes every misdeed. O kings, all one by one be in state of delight. Listen with your hands folded in reference to this entire commitment of divine kings. Here at Vajrayaka, the king of mountains, when the divine lords assembled, all the world's protectors stood up to ask Brahma, the divine king, O Brahma, you are the principal god, you are the Deva king. May you cut through our crimes, may you dispel our doubts. Why is a king born among humans called divine? For what reason is he called divine son? Born in the world of humans, he would be a human king. How do gods wield divine kingship among men? When the Lord Brahma asked us by the protectors of the world, Brahma, the chief of gods, replied in this way: as the guardians of the world ask me thus, for the benefit of all beings, I reveal this sublime treatise. I will explain the origin of kings who are born in the realm of humans, and by what means they become kings of their lords' lands. Blessed by divine kings, they enter their mother's womb, being first blessed by kings, afterwards they enter their womb. Once born in the human world, they become kings of humans. From gods they are born, thus they are called divine son. Granting them a share of royalty and saying, you are the son of gods, the divine rulers of 33 create such human kings in this way, in order to bring misconduct to an end, thought what is against the Dharma, and set beings in virtuous deeds so they may ascend to celestial abodes. The kings of humans, be they Gandharvas, Rakshas, no caste, human or gods, bring the end of evil deeds. These human lords, blessed by devas to show actions ripening figs, are like parents to those who engage in virtue. They are empowered by gods to show the fruition of deeds, of actions done well and wrongly done in this life. And when the lords overlook evil actions committed in their land, and to those who are unlawful fail to mete out befitting revenge through the neglecting of unlawful deeds, that which is not Dharma will triumph. Conflicts and clandestine acts will befell the regions over and over again. The lords of gods will be enraged in the palatial dwelling of the 33. When a king overlooks the presence of evildoers in a region, terrible clandestine acts will ruin and destroy that land. Upon arrival of a foreign army, the country will at least succumb. Resources and race too will fall away. Those who amass wealth through trickery and deceit will rob each other entirely of means. And when a king does not perform the function for which kingship has been established, he demolishes his own realm. As the elephant lord destroys a lotus pond, unfavourable winds will rise, unfavourable rains will fall, the sun and moon will be unfavourable, and likewise the planets and stars. Where a king is negligent, famine will descend upon the land. Seeds, crops, flowers, and fruits will cease to grow and flourish. When the king overlooks those who do wrong in his realm, unhappiness will befall the gods in their words. The kings of gods will lament to each other, unlawful to this king, for he remains in the side of the lawless. Before long the king will incur the wrath of the gods, and when the gods reveal their rage, his kingdom will wither away. Mayhem will prevail in the land, by weapons to it will give away. Covert acts, strife, and disease of every variety will come to be. Overcome by rage, the lords of gods and gods will ignore him. The land will lie in ruin, anguish the sole company of their king. He will lose his beloved ones, brothers and even sons. From his beloved wife too he will part. His daughters will meet with death. Shooting stars will rain down. Likewise mock suns will shower. Fear of foreign armies and famine will greatly occur. His valued minister, beloved elephant, and cherished camels will die too. People will pillage one another, seizing homes, resources, and wealth. Region by region through the land they will slay one another with arms. Strife, squabbles, and deception will tear apart their lands. Demons will enter into the breeds, and terrible disease will plague them. Even the venerable ones, the ministers and retinues too, will succumb to weakness and deceit. And when these devoured of virtue become devoid of virtue, become venerated in the land, these law-abiding virtuous ones will always be victimized. And when the wicked are honored and the virtuous is persecuted, three things, stars, water, and wind, will become calamitous there. And when the wicked are embraced, three things, the flower, essence, and power of the sublime Dharma, the strength of beings and quality of the earth will utterly perish. And when the corrupt are esteemed and the sublime dishonored, three things, famine, thunderbolts, and death will occur in that place. Fruit and crops will have no taste and no potency thereafter. Being sickened with disease will fill these regions completely. Nice sweet fruits will shrivel apart, becoming bitter and sharp. Play, human fun, the pleasures of previous times now ripe in infinite delusion will lose the touch of joy. Fruits and crops will lose their succulence and force. They will cease to nourish bodies, elements, or sense. Pale and lacking complexion beings will become weak and feeble and without strength. Though they may consume much food, they will remain unfulfilled. Their strength, prowess, and energy will disappear. The country will become a mass of beings without vitality. Multitudes of beings will become afflicted by various illnesses due to various cannibalistic deeds. There will be erosion of auspicious planets and stars. When the king is
Dharmak, and on the side of those lacking virtue, the triple realms in the sphere of the three worlds will completely perish. And when the king is partisan, ignoring those who commit misfortune, such affairs in their regions will come to be. When he overlooks those evildoers, a king negligent to wield kingship according to the role bestowed upon him by the Lord of God. Those who perform virtuous actions will be reborn in the deep abodes. Those who commit negative actions will be born among hungry ghosts, animals, and honeybees. And when the king ignores those who carry out misdeeds in his realms, through the misdeeds, gods will fall from the heaven of the 33. And when a king does not fulfill his duty, he is no longer his forefather's son, and the kings of gods will rain misfortunes upon his kingdom. And when his lands are ravaged by rampant disorder and acts, he shall quell his transgressions and encourage positive deeds. Thus have the Lords of God vested a kingship upon him in the human realm. It is he who effects flourishing for beings in his life, when he demonstrates above the effect of deeds done well and wrongly done. For this reason he is called king. For his own welfare and that of all others, for the sake of the order in the land, he is blessed and proved by the hosts of gods. In order to bring harmony to his kingdom, he should renounce life and sovereignty and subdue the wicked and sinful in his domain. Should he tolerate lawlessness and unwittingly ignore the lawful, no other threat could be as terrible as this, as evil and wickedness arise if those responsible are not indicted. The country will be overrun by utterly objectable criminals. As elephants demolish great pools, so these regions will be destroyed. As the abodes of the gods perish and the kings of gods become wrathful, then all the things in the realm will be doomed to misfortune. Hence, those who commit these deeds must be tamed according to the crime, in the realm protected in keeping with the Dharma. The king should not commit unlawful deeds. Giving up evil is life for the sake of justice. He should never succumb to bias. Should even once king take the side of people related and unrelated, or any of the persons in his realm, he will utterly fall into prejudice. The fame and renown of the king, whose virtues in Dharma fills the triple boots and makes a Lord of gods happy in the dwelling of the 33. Those gods will say, our son in Jampavita, such as honest king, establishes beings in virtuous deeds, he rules his realm according to the Dharma. Through great deeds, his king helps beings arrive in their lands. He fills the abodes of gods with devas and their divine sons, as he rules his realm according to the Dharma, where kings of gods are indeed well pleased. Being pleased, the king of gods will offer protection to this human king. The sun and the moon, and likewise the stars, will move well. The winds will arise in due time. Too, rain will fall. Prosperity will be ensured in the goddess abodes, and likewise in the realm of the king. Gods and God's divine children are always bound in this place. Hence, the king should forsake his own cherished life, but never give up the Dharma jewel. To ensure welfare of the world, he should seek company with those sublime ones who fully adorned with virtue, happy with their people, and renounced from sinful deed, protecting his realm according to the Dharma, teaching well the laws of the Dharma too. Those engaged in virtue should be encouraged, and he himself must refrain from evil deeds. When those who do evil deeds are accordingly tamed, a year of abundance will ensure. Magnanimous will be the king, possessed of renown and fame, and who reigns in his subjects in peace. That's the end of chapter 12. Chapter 12. When I become Chakravartin king, this is a chapter on Sursan Baba, chapter 13. When I became Chakravartin king, I offered the earth with its oceans and 4 continents filled with jewels to all Buddhas of the past. There was nothing loved nor treasured. I did not surrender, so I might for the sacred Dharmakaya. For eons I have given my cherished life, as I had done for innumerable eons upon the reign of Sangata Ratnashikling. After that Sangata passed into Nirvana, there appeared our king called Susamava, hailed as the Chakravartin, ruling the 4 continents. He reigned the earth as far as the oceans. One day that good king fell asleep in the palace known as Jintandragasha. In a dream he heard the virtue of the Buddha. In the middle of the sleep he did vividly see the Dharma preacher Ratnachaya, shining amidst the rays of the sun, and expounded prophetically this king of sutras. And then at this king arose from his sleep, his whole body overwhelmed with joy. Ecstatic, he came out of the palace and approached the supreme assembly of disciples. Making the offerings to the conqueror's disciples, he asked Ratnachaya, the Dharma preacher, where the assembly of Sangata and the Bhikshu Ratnachaya, a possessor of virtue. At that time, Ratnachaya was entering into another cave, seated in comfort, reciting the king of the sutras and reflecting upon it. Then he showed the king Ratnachaya, the Dharma preaching Bhikshu, sitting elsewhere in a cave, glowing with glory, brilliance, and splendor. Here Ratnachaya, the expounder of the Dharma, upheld the profound mysterious rose activity. He also expounded his king of sutras, which is called the sublime golden light. Prostrating at the feet of Ratnachaya, King Savra said thus, "Teach me, O you whose face resembles the Oxymoron, the king of sutras, the sublime golden light." Ratnachaya accepted this request, assuring King Sambhava that he would teach him, and the gods in the triple 1,000 worlds rejoiced with great delight. Then the king of Yemen, sprinkled with clean supremacy sight with jewel like water and fragrant water too, he carpeted the ground with loose flowers and set up a throne, embellishing the throne with umbrellas. With victory banners and thousands of tassels, the king sprinkled the throne with starful sandalwood powder. Gods and Nagasuras and Ganaras, Akshas, kings and Maharavas too bestrewed the throne with divine and other flowers. Inconceivable, unconceivable devas, countless devas, as well as hundreds of thousands and millions of gods, hungry for the Dharma, strewed Ratnachaya with cello tree flowers as he left his cave. Ratnachaya, the Dharma, preaching Bhikshu, having thoroughly washed and dressed in clean clothes, he approached the throne, said, pressed his palms together and prostrated to it. Floating in the sky above the Deva kings, the goddess and gods scattered mandarava flowers and filled the sky with music resounding from innumerable hundreds of thousands of instruments. Then Ratnachaya, the Dharma preacher, Bhikshu, remembered the 10 direction 100,000 million Buddhas who ascended the throne and remained seated on it. Then generated a heart full of guidance for all beings. He perfected and perfused the mind of compassion, expanded the sutra of the king of Sambhava. Pressing his palms and prostrating, the king fully rejoiced, moved by the Dharma. His eyes shed tears, his whole body was overcome by bliss. In that time, King Savra-shura, in order to prevent the sutra, to venerate the sutra, took hold of Chintamani, the king of jewels, and made this dedication for all beings, saying, "May there now be rained down in Jambavipa ornaments made of 7 jewels, the great riches that bring peace and well-being to beings in this world lie there on the 4 continents, the 7 jewels that rains down. Armlets, necklace and earrings, food, drink and clothing rain down too." King Sambhava saw this cascade of jewels raining down upon Jambavipa and presented the jewel-filled 4 continents to the order of Ratnashich king. I, the Tathagata Shakyamuni, was that king called Sambhava, who at that time completely gave up the 4 lands and the jewels therein. The Tathagata Kashyapaya was Ratnachaya, the Dharma preaching Bhikshu, the one who expounded well the Sutra of King Sambhava. At that time I heard the Sutra and accordingly rejoiced in it. To that very virtuous deed, hearing the Dharma, rejoicing well, I have gained this body of a golden hue, endowed with marks of 100 merits, beautiful to behold and enchanting to the eye. It gives delight to thousands and millions of gods. When beings behold this body, they will always obtain a body of joy. For 99 million eons I became a Chakravartin king. For numerous hundreds of thousands of eons I ruled as the leisure king. For inconceivable eons I became Chakra, and likewise Brahma with a tranquil mind. I have found the several 10 powers whose extent remains ever immeasurable. Equal to that is the mass of merit gained by hearing the sutra and then rejoicing. As I desired, I have completed full awakening. I have attained the sublime body of Dharmakaya. It's in the 13th chapter on Savra from the King of Glory Sutras, the Sublime God. Chapter on protection called Refuge of the Yakshas. O greatest goddess, Shri activated son of daughter of noble family who wishes to make goddess conceivably great and extensive offerings of resources and articles to past, future and present Buddhas, and who is keen to know the profound Buddha history of past, future and present Buddhas, should listen to this King of Glory Sutras, the blind golden light with full conviction and concentrated mind, attentive ears at the place at monastery or forest retreat where the sublime golden light is expanded before thee. Then the Tathagata, the transcendent victor, spoke to these verses to the further elaborate at this point. He wishes to make civil offerings to all the Buddhas, and he wishes to know the profound sphere of Tathagata should go to the place where the monastery or sublime monastery dwelling where the sublime sutras explained. The sutra is inconceivable for its ocean of virtues without end. It's free from being, from countless oceans of suffering. I have not seen the beginning, middle, or likewise of the sutra's end. The sutra is deeply profound, for there is nothing that which is compares. Never grains of sand in the ocean, and the ganges, not those in the earth or in the oceans, nor atoms of the sky are equal. And when each hemisphere of reality should go at the time, for instance, start there is a stupa whose nature is Dharmadhatu, unchanging and profound. Inside it he will behold Buddha Shakyamuni expound this sutra in a charming melodic voice. There and then he'll know this. Everyone who hears the sutra gathers an inconceivable mass of merit. Thus, when astonishing coupled tens of millions of eons, they will experience precious, immense, and divine. As soon as he enters that monastery of dwelling, his negative days will fall away for those who are able to cross hundreds of leagues, measured by pits of fire, and endure with acute hardship to hear this sutra. All bad dreams and evil signs, afflictions of planets and stars, dreadful spells and demons will immediately depart. The moment he enters that monastery or dwelling aside, he shoots it up the throne, resembling a lotus over revealed to him in a dream. Seated up on the throne, he should thoroughly teach the sutra. He should read what is written and likewise understand it. And when he comes down from his throne, although he may go into another place, miracles will be seen there upon that throne. At times the form of the Dharma teacher will be observed, at others Buddha and Bodhisattva figures will be seen. Sometimes the shape of Sangata, likewise the forms of miniatures, during on occasion the tray or two will appear upon this throne. At times only light will be seen, at times there will be gods appearing just for moments, turning invisible again. Praise when seen, Buddhist beings senses, when seen success to all places, grains and signs, excellent fortunes. Are magical creations of Buddhas, they ensure victory, glory, and fame, turn back violent challenges, they crush firing forces completely. They battle foes and ruin, they bring victory and war, pacifying all bad dreams. They annihilate negative actions and pacifying on virtuous deeds. The whole of Chandravika will his fame, his enemies will gladly return. His foes we vanquished in full, he will retain entirely from his action, completely victorious in battle. He'll be utterly without enemy and filled with supreme joy. King Brahma, Shakra, and the Lord protectors, also the Lords of the 33, Samjana, the chief conqueror, and Vajrapani, the Yaksha Lord, and Ganadhataba, Lord of Nagasaga, and the Ashur's Lords, and the King of the Lords, and the Lord of the Kanaras, and likewise the Lord of the Garudas. These leaders and others and all the gods too would come to worship without end the conceivable stupa of the Dharmadhatu. As they see beings worthy of veneration, they will be filled with intense delight. All the glorious lords of gods will speak thus to themselves and one another. Behold, all those bestowed with merit, excellent and glory, men with pristine merit, with faith beyond belief, they have arrived at this place to hear this profound sutra. They revere the stupa of Dharmadhatu, inspired compassion. They revere the stupa of Dharmadhatu, inspired by compassion for the world. They work for the welfare of beings. They are vessels for the essence of the Dharma, which is profound. By entering the sphere of reality into this sutra, they completely arrive. Those who see the sublime virtue, the sublime golden light in its previous times have blessed hundreds of thousands of Buddhas through these roots of virtue. Those who have heard the sutra will be granted full protection in the form direction in all places by the kings of gods and Savra-shura, likewise shrines for basking above four kings with hundreds of thousands of yakshas, possessed in miraculous power and great strength. Indra, Soma, Yama, Vayu, Varuna, Skanda, Vishnu, and Surabhasti, Vajnapati, Dashana, these protectors of the world who are powerful and shine every flow day and night will offer protection without fail to those who have heard this sutra. Narayana and Shivara, the two powerful Yaksha lords, those 28 lovers led by Samjana, and hundreds of thousands of Yaksha possessed of great strength and supernatural power and offer protection from fear and terror. To those who have heard this sutra, Vajrapani, Lord of the Yakshas, along with 500 Yakshas too, and every Bodhisattva will offer protection to those who have heard this sutra. Mahayana Lord of the Youngsters, likewise Purmabhadra, Kunibhara, Yatavaka, and Bengal and Kapala, to each Yaksha Lord, along with 500 Yakshas, will offer protection to those who have heard the sutra. Chittasresta, Gandharava, Jinasabha, King of Conquerors, Manikata, and Nikikantaha, and Vashudahapita, and Mahagarasa, Mahakala, along with Suvaranakesha, Manchaga, Jagalapada, Mahagabaga, Ranu, Dhamapala, Mahagata, Bali, Sri Matri, likewise Rishi, Nakesha, Brahma, Vidyanala, Nakula, along with Kamashri, Shrista, and Kanadana, Nagayana, and Hamidata. Likewise, Santagari, those powerful beings who overcome every foe will offer protection with their supernatural fates to those who have heard the sutra. And Navata Panta, the Lord of Nagas, likewise Sangata, two are both mutually endowed, the Patra, Nanda, and Napanandaka, accompanied by hundreds of thousands of Nagas possessed by supernatural power, offer protection from all fears and terrors to those who have heard the sutra. Bali Rahunam Chu, Vimachuri, Sangari, Chu, Prahalara, Kashakanda, Nakasasi. So the lords are accompanied by hundreds of thousands of souls possessed of great strength and supernatural power and offer protection from all fear and terror to those who have heard the sutra. Here is to the mother of the Buddhas along with the 500 sons who offer protection to them whether they are standing, sitting, or sleeping. Chanda Chandalika and Agwaja Shima Chandika Kunti Kutinati, the one who steals the glow of being. Those who are powerful and who have wrong others possess the supernatural power and offer protection in all four directions to those who have heard the sutra. Savra-shura, leading noble goddesses likewise shows her 4 deities of fruit, forests, and crops, those who dwell in steepest trees and parks. The wind deity and every deity there, these goddesses and the earth goddess herself, their minds overflowing with joy, will offer protection to those who have heard the sutra. They will bring longevity, complexion, and strength to the light of their beings. With excellent merit and glory they will be adorned. They will pacify afflictions of planets and stars, of bodies and affliction from beasts and nightmares. The earth goddess herself, powerful in its performance, fully satisfied the essence of the King of Glory, Sutra, the divine golden light. The potency of the earth, 6,800,000 leagues as far as the Vajrabhas will greatly increase, going down a full 100 leagues. The spirit and Savra will penetrate through the power of the hair in the sutra, and turning upwards again, it will cause the surface to entirely shine. All those gods and goddesses too will be supervised, satisfied by the essence of the King of Glory, Sutra of the divine golden light. They'll have radiant complexion, be pale, peaceful, satisfied, and immensely strong. Blessed by very tasty deities of fruit, crops, and flowers, and all general they will be filled with profound joy, delighted by the sutra's essence, they'll ensure growth of fruits and crops as sweetness of various flames and of Judas damage. Stately fruit trees, every park, all forests, and all fruit-bearing trees will bloom with flowers giving off fragrance scents on this earth will grow, every kind of rose and bush adorned with flowers and laden with fruit. And all which are prepared nimble now that maidens, their minds immensely filled with joy, will approach lotus pools and flowers that there, and many lotus smoke burning. The sky will be strewn without smoke and masses of clouds free of darkness and dust. Every direction will shine bright and light. 1,000 rays of sun, beautiful with lattice light, profoundly deep in illumination will grow through rise in that land. The double sun, the son of God, residing in the palace of the renowned God, will be deeply satisfied by the sutra. With great delight, and the lordly sun will rise and shine upon with limitless radiance of rays shining upon the land. The moment it rises, sends forth shafts of rays of awakening the lotuses abounding in various pools. To satisfy the whole of the earth, the sun will finally awaken. Various flowers, fruit, and magnificent plants in the whole chamber there, but the sun and the moon too will then shine with unknown glory. The stars and winds and rain will perfectly come. The whole chamber there will have an excellent year. In this place, with sutras kept, there will always be plenty. This ends the 14th chapter of the protection called the refuge of yakshas from King of Glory, Sutras of Sangata. When you talk about Savra-shura, no goddess Bodhisattva Samachaya address the Tathagata goddess in this way, a transcendent Lord for whom, for what reason and what cause and by whose emotion performs and what virtuous deeds of these 10,000 sons of gods is upon hearing the enlightenment prophecy of these 3 sublime beings arrive here from the heaven of 33 in order to listen to the Dharma from the Tathagata. The Tathagata replied, in this way, in the future time, when hundreds of thousands and millions of incalculable beings beyond calculation have passed, the sublime being, the Bodhisattva Uchirikoto, will awaken to the supreme and perfect enlightenment in the Savra-shura world. He will emerge in the world of the Savra-shura Chaitara the Tathagata of the Arhat, the full enlightened one, perfect in wisdom and conduct, gone to bliss, no other world, charity of men to be tamed, peerless teacher of men and God. So it will be until Savra-shura Trakatura, the Tathagata of the Arhat, the fully enlightened one, has gone to the state beyond suffering. The sublime Dharma has disappeared and his teaching has completely disappeared. At that time, the spoiler will be prepared to succeed in this Tathagata will awaken to the supreme and perfect enlightenment in the world called Virajadaya. The emerging the world is Savra-shura Buddha Vajrakayan Chinmabaha, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the fully enlightened one. His teaching ran until Savra-shura the Buddha Vajrakayan Chinmabaha, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the fully enlightened one, is gone to a state beyond suffering, and his teaching has altogether and completely disappeared. At that time, the spoil of the Prabhaya succeeded in this Tathagata and awakened to the supreme and perfect enlightenment in the world sphere called Virajadavaja. He will emerge as Sivanaka Shumitara Rasharamuni Prabhashaka to the Tathagata, the Arhat, fully awakened one. Perfect in wisdom and conduct, gone to bliss, know the world, charity of men to be tamed, peerless, teacher of men and gods, the noble goddess Bodhisattva Samaya replied, thus these three were prophesied by the Tathagata to achieve supreme and perfect enlightenment. But until then, address and victory of these 10,000 sons of God, such as Jorajaya, have not extensively undertaken the deeds of bodhisattvas to the same extent. There is not even a word to hear that they engaged in the six perfections in the past. There is not even a word to hear that they completely gave away their hands, feet, eyes, the supreme body part of the head, beloved sons, daughters, and wives. There is not even a word to hear that they gave away wealth, grain, inns, gold, jewels, pearls, lapis, conches, stones, coral, silver, gold, and bronze, and gems. There is not even a word to hear that they gave away food and drink, nuts, clothing, bedding, dwellings, palaces, plants, hedges, pools, and ponds. There is not even a word to hear that they gave away elephants, cows, and bulls, sons, and male female servants before they received the prophecy of their own Tathagata names from the Buddhas, and careful numerous hundreds of thousands and millions of bodhisattvas for hundreds of thousands and millions of years. Made numerous hundreds of thousands and considerable numerous acts of veneration of their possessions to account for hundreds of thousands and millions of Tathagatas. They completely gave away all the resources that are to be given away, and completely gave away hands, feet, eyes, the supreme body part of the head, beloved sons, daughters, and wives. They completely gave everything that is to be completely given away. They completely gave wealth, grains, in gold and bronze, jewels, pearls, lapis, conches, crystals, coral, silver, and gold. They gave food and drink, mounts, clothing, bedding, dwelling, palaces, paths, hedges, pools and bonds, elephants, cows and bulls, stones and males and female servants. In time, they completely training all six perfections. After complete training all six things, they experience hundreds of thousands of movement states of well-being. My Venerable transcended victory, simply for what reason and what causes it, and by the consummation and performance of what meritorious deeds have these 10,000 sons of God, such as Mahayana Buddhist, come here in order to listen to the Dharma from the Tathagata. Why has the Tathagata prophesied that they will awaken to the peerless and perfect enlightenment when numerous hundreds of thousands and millions of years have passed? For what reason will they be enlightened in the world sphere called Salendrada Vajradravati, with the same family and clan as the 10,000 Buddhas named Prasana, Dana, Topala, Gandarak, perfect in wisdom and conduct, gone to bliss, knowers of the world, charities are meant to be tamed, pure, and teach the men and gods. When asked as the Tathagata said this to the noble goddess Bodhisattva Mahasamukachaya, O noble goddess, there is reason and there is cause, and there is a performing and gathering of pure roots of virtue which will result in the arrival of these 10,000 sons of God, such as Ramadanitara Jorajaya from heaven of the 33 to listen to this Dharma teaching. The noble goddess, as soon as they heard the prophecy of these three sublime ones, beings, they generated great reverence of the faith in the skin of glorious sutras and sublime golden light. Immediately they were endowed with pristine minds like the same as flawless lapis. They became endowed with minds like the sky, which were pure, exceedingly vast and expansive. They became possessed of an inconceivable massive world. O noble goddess, because the 10,000 sons of God, such as Jorajaya, upon hearing the sutra, were immediately endowed with pristine minds like stainless flawless lapis. They received the stage of prophecy. O noble goddess, by the power of the gathering of the merit Of hearing this Dharma teaching, and by the power of the previous resolve, the 10,000 sons of God, so such as Ramachandra, Torarataji, or Raja, have now attained the stage of prophecy to peerless and perfect enlightenment. And what noble goddess are these former resolves? This is the 15th chapter, and the chapter of prophecy of 10,000 sons of God and the kings. Noble goddess at the time. Chapter yes. Noble goddess at a time when still more incalculable eons extensive and conceivable and measurable had passed. At the time of that moment, the David guards the heart, the falling light and one called, but as she can preferring wisdom and conducts gone to bliss, no other world, charity and men to be attained, to be a teacher, men and gods arose in the world. The noble goddess at the time, the impermanent woman, and David guard of our heart, the fully enlightened one passed in the state beyond suffering, and his teaching completely disappeared, and when there remained just a semblance of teaching, there was a king called Savra-shura, who was virtuous and who ruled his kingdom according to the Dharma and not according to the non-Dharma. He was like a mother and father to the beings who lived in this realm. The noble goddess at this time, at that moment, there lived in the kingdom of King Savra-shura, a merchant called Jidamandara, a doctor and healer and expert in the elements. He was well versed in the old treatise on medical science. And, O noble goddess, at that time, that moment, that merchant Jidamandara had a son called Jalavanana, handsome, attractive, blessed with an clear complexion, and expert in various treatises, a master of all treatises, learned in writing, numerology, palm reading, astrology. O noble goddess, at that time and at that moment, hundreds of thousands of beings in the kingdom of Savra-shura were afflicted with various diseases. They were oppressed by various diseases. They experienced pain that was unbearably sharp, severe, and violent. Then, O noble goddess, at that time and that moment, Jalavanana, merchant's son, developed a mind of great compassion for the hundreds of thousands of beings afflicted with and oppressed by various diseases. These numerous hundreds of thousands of beings are afflicted and oppressed by various diseases. They are experiencing unbearable, sharp, severe, and violent sensation suffering. My father, Jatimada, a doctor and healer and expert in the elements, well versed in the Eightfold Treatise on medical science, is old and in wandering state. Decrepit and dependent upon a walking stick. He is unable to go to villages, cities, settlements, villages, valleys, regions, and royal palaces. In order to completely free beings who are conflicted with and distressed by various diseases from numerous ailments, I shall approach and fully consult my father, Jatimbara, on how to become knowledgeable about the elements involved in illnesses. With this special knowledge, I shall go to villages, cities, settlements, valleys, regions, and royal palaces and completely free hundreds and thousands of beings from their various sicknesses. Moreover, a noble goddess at that time, at that moment, Jalandhara, the merchant's son, went to his father, Jantibara. He approached him and bowed at the feet of his father, Jantibara, folded his palms in reverence and said on one side, remaining on one side, he questioned his father, Jantibara, in these verses. How does the senses apprehend objects? How do the elements change? At what time do embodied beings receive elements that cause disease? How does the eating of food, timely or untimely, affect well-being? But what is the fire in the body not affected? How is the medicine practiced in order to pacify illness that have arisen from wind and from barb, from phlegm and from compound of these? Compound. When does wind, when does bile, when does phlegm, harmful to beings, become active? Then the merchant Jantindara revealed to his son Jalavanahana the verses through which one gains mastery of the elements. See that 3 months are summer and 3 are autumn, 3 are winter and 3 are spring. Thus the successive months form 6 phases. 12 months are said to be 1 year. Note 3 and 3 are phases in grief. The monthly phase is shown in twos, and when food and drink are thus taken and digested, the doctor's elements of phases 2 are shown. The sense and elements in turn change in the various phases of the year. As the senses go through such a change, the afflictions arise for embodied beings. In that case, the doctor must have knowledge of the 3-month fourfold division and the 6-phase grouping of the 2 months. Food, drink, and medicine follow in this sequence. In summer arise illnesses from excess of wind. When autumn comes, bile disturbances occur. Likewise, disease from a compound appear in winter. In spring arise illnesses from excess of phlegm. Fatty, warm, salty, and sour are summer's tastes. Fatty, sweet, and cold are falls. Sweet, fatty, and sour tastes of winter. Coarse, warm, and bitter for spring. Excessive flame arises from soon after eating, excessive bile during digestion time, excessive wind arises soon afterwards. This is how the elemental changes occur. Heal wind in a person with rich potent food, remove bile by cleansing the bowels. For excess flame, suspense, and emetic, when a compound occurs, the skill, protein, medicine possessing three qualities. Know well in which phases excess wind, mild flame, and a compound occur, according to elements, body, and time. One thus gives medicine, food, and drink. Then the merchant son, Jalavana, having inquired about the elements, understood the 8 branches of medical science. A noble goddess at that time, and at that moment, Jalavana, the merchant son, went to all the villages, cities, towns, valleys, regions, and royal palaces in the land of the Savra-shura. He comforted those hundreds of thousands of beings afflicted with and distressed by various diseases, declaring, I am a doctor, I am a doctor. Advertising himself in this way, he gave them relief and said, I will completely free you from every affliction. The noble goddess, as soon as they heard such statements as this from the Jalavahana, the merchant's son, those numerous hundreds of thousands of beings were overcome with venerable great joy. They received comfort and were endowed with inconceivable happiness, peace, and peace of mind. At that time, at the moment, those hundreds of thousands of beings afflicted with and distressed by various ailments were completely cured of their illnesses and became free of illness. After becoming free of illness, they become endowed with prowess, strength, and energy as before. Furthermore, at that time and at the moment, among hundreds of thousands of beings afflicted with and distressed by various ailments, those who are acutely afflicted with a severe illness approached Jalavana, the merchant's son. Whatever medicine was prescribed by Jalavana, the merchant's son, to those hundreds of thousands of beings afflicted with various illnesses and distressed by various diseases, cured the illness of all these beings, cured of all the illness soul, with their suffering greatly reduced, they become endowed with powers of strength and energy as before. O noble goddess, at the time and the moment, in the village, cities, towns, valleys, regions, and royal palaces, in the kingdom of King Surasvara, hundreds of thousands of beings afflicted with and distressed by various diseases were free completely from the illness by Jalavana and the merchant's son. This concludes the 16th chapter on the healing illness of the King of Glory Sutra, the God, Sublime God, Golden Mind. Moreover, noble goddess, as Jalavana, the merchant's son, made all beings in the kingdom of King of Surasvara without illness, or merely with small illness. Their bodies were endowed with strength and delight as before. All beings in the kingdom of King Surasvara rejoiced, played, enjoyed themselves, gave gifts and engaged in virtuous deeds. They honored and celebrated Jalavana, the merchant's son, with these words: May Jalavana, the merchant's son, be victorious. May he be victorious, the king of medicine. He healed all beings of disease. Surely he must be a bodhisattva. He has mastered the entire stronghold trees on medicine, medical science. This is on the chapter on the previous lives of Jalavahana's fish disciple. Chapter 17. The noble goddess Jalavahana, the merchant's son, had a wife called Jalambagaba. A noble goddess Jalambagaba, his wife, had 2 sons. One was called Jalambar and the other was called Jalagaba. Then a noble goddess Jalavana, the merchant's son, together with his 2 sons, visited villages, cities, towns, valleys, regions, and royal palaces. On another occasion, a noble goddess Jalavana, the merchant's son, went to see forest wilderness. There in the forest wilderness, he saw flesh-eating dogs, wolves, jackals, foxes, crows, and other birds, all heading in the direction of Atavasimsambhava and the forest pool. And Jalavana wondered, why are these flesh-eating dogs, wolves, jackals, foxes, crows, and other birds heading in this direction? And he thought, I should go into the direction where the dogs, wolves, jackals, crows, and other birds are hunting. A noble goddess at Jalavana, the merchant's son, gradually headed for Atavasimsambhava, the forest pool. In that great pool there lived 10,000 fish. There he saw the numerous hundreds of fish were bereft of water. He felt great compassion for these fish. The moment he generated thought, he saw a goddess emerging from a tree with just half her body. The goddess said to the Jalavana, the moderator's son, excellent son of noble family, since you are called Jalavana, waterbrand, give water to these fish. You are called Jalavana on 2 accounts. Bring water and giving water. Therefore, live up to your name. Jalavana asked, O goddess, how many fish are there? The goddess said, there are full 10,000. Then O noble goddess Jalavana, the merchant's son, was overcome with great compassion. At that time, O noble goddess, at Atavasimsambhava, the forest pool, was also a little water left. Without water, the 10,000 fish were dying and thrashing frantically about. And O noble Shavara, and the noble goddess Jalavana The merchant's son ran in the four directions, and in whatever direction Jalavana, the merchant's son, ran, in that direction those 10,000 fish wretchedly looked. O noble goddess, although he ran in the four directions in search of water, Jalavana, the merchant's son, did not find any water there. He looked in that four directions, saw many tall trees not far away. He climbed these trees and cut their branches. Taking the branches to the pool, he built a cool shade for those 10,000 fish. After this, the noble goddess Jalavahana, merchant's son, went searching for water into channels into the pool. He ran into the four directions, thinking from where could water come, but he could not find any water. Very quickly he followed the stream. Then the rock goddess, he came to a great river called Jalangama, from which the water in the pool of that forest came. He saw the river had been made to flow into a chasm by an evil man wishing to starve those 10,000 fish of water and eat them later. He thought, since this river cannot be diverted even by 1,000 men, how should this I could alone make it flow back? With this, he thought, he returned to the pool. The noble goddess Nalavahana, the merchant's son, went quickly to where the king Surishvara was, paying homage with his head at the feet of King Surishvara. He sat down on the side and gave his account. In your majesty's kingdom, I have replaced the disease of beings in every village, city, and town. In every place there is in one place there's a pool called Ativisam Bahava. In that pool, 10,000 fish are with no water and scorched by the sun. Since I've been given to you, and so as I seek by all means to give life to beings without animals rebirth, I request your majesty to give me 20 elephants. Then King Surishvara gave this order to his ministers: give 20 elephants to the scheme of doctors. And the minister said, go to the elephant house, take 20 elephants, help and bring happiness to bring beings. Then our noble goddess Jalavana, which is son, along with his two sons, Jalambara and Jalangaba, taking 20 elephants and 20 ox leather bags, returned to the great river Jalamgar flows. They filled the bags with water, put them on the elephant's back, and sped away to the forest wilderness where the pool was. They took the bags from the back of the elephants and filled with water. They walked back in the four directions. Wherever Jalavana had the merchant's son went, those 10,000 fish followed after him. Then, O noble goddess Jalavana, the merchant's son, had this thought: why are these 10,000 fish following after me? Then it occurred to him, no doubt these 10,000 fish are tortured by fire of hunger and are seeking food from me. I shall give them food. Then O noble goddess Jalavana, the merchant's son, said this to his son Jalambara: my son, ride the fastest of all the animals and go quickly to my home. Bring this message to your grandfather, merchant Sagan. Grandfather Jala said, whatever food may be ready in this house for parents, brothers, sisters, male and female servants, or workers, make it into one packet, put it into Jalambara's elephant, and send it quickly to Jalavaha. Then the boy Jalambara rode in the elephant and went running fast to his father's house. He relayed the message to his grandfather in detail. Then the boy Jalambara put the food on the elephant's back and returned to the pool at Ativisambara. Delighted to see him, son Jalavahana received the food. He chopped it into pieces, threw it into the pool, and thus satisfied those 10,000 fish. Then he had this thought: at another time from a picture in forest solitude reciting the Mahayana text, I heard that one hears the name of Tathagata Ratnashikin. At that time of death will be born in the higher states. I should teach the profound teaching of the dependent origination and pronounce the name of Buddha Ratnashikin, the Tathagata, the heart, the full enlightenment. However, at the time the views of beings in Jambava were divided into two. Some liked and believed in the Mahayana, while others despised it. Then Jalavana, the merchant's son at the time, stood knee deep in the pool. He purposely suddenly cried, I prostrated the Buddha Ratnashikin, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the full awakened one. And when the Tathagata Ratnashikin was training in Bodhisattva deeds, he made this prayer: the time of death, whoever in the 10 directions hears my name, may they venture from their world and be reborn in heaven of 33. There may they be equal among the gods. And then Jalavahana, the merchants, expanded the Dharma in that way to those beings in the animal state. As this exists, this arises. Because this is produced, this is produced. Thus, due to ignorance, karmic formations arise. Due to karmic formations, consciousness arise. Due to conscious, name and form arise. Due to name and form, the sixth sense arise. Due to sixth sense, contact arise. Due to contact, feelings arise. Due to feelings, cravings arise. Due to cravings, grasping arise. The grasp existence arise. From existence arising aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, suffering, and ease of mind, conflict, and strife. In this way, this great aggregate of suffering comes into being. Furthermore, it is this way The cessation of others, karmic formation cease and likewise through the cessation is great, good of future suffering. Having given this Dharma teaching to those beings in the animal state, the noble goddess at that time, the moment, Jalahavana, the merchant son returned home with his son Jalambara and Jalagaba. Then at another time, after feasting and drinking at the great festival, Jalavahana, the urchin son, lay intoxicated on his bed. At that time, the moment the great omen occurred at night came and the end there's 10,000 fish died and were born equally among the gods of the 33. The moment they were born, they had this thought, by reason of what virtues that have we been born among the gods of 33. The answer arose in their minds. Enchanted with the bewildered 10,000 fish, while they were there in the animal state, Jalavahana, the ancient son, satisfied us with food and water. He also given a Dharma teaching on the profound principle of dependent origination. He pronounced to us that the name of Shakim, the Tathagata, the heart, the full enlightened one. By reason of this cause and condition we were born among the gods, we should go to reach Narayana, the merchant sons, and make offerings to him. Then these 10,000 sons of God disappeared from the gods at 33 and went to the house of Jalavahana, the merchant son. At that time, while Jalavahana was his son lay sleeping in his bed, those sons of God placed 10,000 pearl necklaces on his head. They placed 10,000 pearl necklaces at the side of his feet. They placed 10,000 pearl necklaces on his right. They placed 10,000 pearl necklaces on his left. They rained down a great shower of divine and divine flowers. And flowers. They placed divine symbols and sounds of the symbols. Woke up the people of Jambavida. Jalahavana, the merchant son, woke up too. Then those 10,000 sons of God rose into the sky, having rained down a shower of divine flowers of other regions. In other regions of King Surasavarpa's realm, they went to the Atavishambara, the forest pool, and scattered there a great shower of divine Mahamandarava flowers. Becoming invisible in that spot, they scattered back to their divine abodes. Here they frolicked in 5 essential objects and enjoyed themselves, delighting in what pleased them and experienced great glory and good fortune. Then as the day broke in Jambavida, King Surasavarpa saw these omens and asked his astrologers and chief ministers, why did these signs appear last night? They said, may it please your majesty to know, in the house of Jalavahana, the merchant son, there rained down 40,000 pearl necklaces and cascades of divine Mahamandarava flowers. Then King Surasavarpa said to the ministers, with kind words, summon Jalavahana, the merchant son. The astrologer and the senior ministers went to Jalavahana's house and said to Jalavahana, the merchant son, King Surasavarpa has asked for you. Then Jalavahana, the merchant son, together with the senior ministers, went to King Surasavarpa. The king asked Jalavahana, last night such omens occurred. Do you know the reason such omens occurred? Then Jalavahana, the merchant son, replied to King Surasavarpa, I do, your majesty. Certainly there were omens for the death of the 10,000 fish. The king said, how do you know? Jalavahana said, your majesty, let my son Janambara go to the pool to see whether those 10,000 fish are alive or dead. The king said, so be it. Then Jalavahana, the merchant son, said to Janambara, son, go, check whether 10,000 fish in the pool at Atavishambara are dead or not dead. Then the boy Janambara went quickly to the pool at Atavishambara and saw that those 10,000 fish had died. He saw that there had been a great shower of divine Mahamandarava flowers as well. He returned and said, this flower, they are dead. As soon as he heard these words from his son Janambara, Jalavahana, the merchant son, approached King Surasavarpa and gave this message in detail. Your Majesty, I beg you to know that 10,000 fish died and were reborn among the gods at 33. It was through this power and my power too that there were such auspicious omens last night. At my home too there rained down 40,000 pearl necklaces and divine Mahamandarava flowers. Upon hearing this, the king was delighted and full of joy. Then the Tathagata said with the noble goddess Bodhisattva Mahasamara Kauchaya, O noble goddess, if you think that King Surasavarpa at that time the moment was another, do not see like this. Why? Because Dandapani, the Shakyan at that time, and that moment was the king called Surasavarpa, the noble goddess. If you think that the merchant Jantambadara at that moment was another, do not see it. Why? Because King Sudhana at that time, at that moment was the merchant called Jatimandara, another goddess. If you think that Jalavahana at that time was another, do not see it like that. Why? At that time, at that moment, I was a merchant son called Jalavahana. Venerable Goddess, if you think that his wife Jalandhara at the time was another, do not say it like this. Why go for the Shakya daughter at that time? At the moment was his wife called Jalandhara. At that time, at the moment, Rahula was his son called Jalandhara. Venerable Ananda was his son called Jalangaba. Venerable Goddess, if you think that the 10,000 fish were others at that time, at the moment, do not see it like this. Why? At that time, at the moment, the 10,000 sons of God, such as Valanani Tantara Joraja, were the 10,000 fish who were satisfied with water and excellent food, and to whom I gave profound Dharma teaching on the principle of dependent origination and pronounced the name Ratnashikim, the Tathagata, the Ahat, the fully enlightened one. By reason of that virtuous cause, they have come here and received the prophecy of supreme and perfect enlightenment. Furthermore, because they have listened to this Dharma teaching with intense joy and inspiration, supreme joy and reverence, they have all received prophecies and names. The noble Goddess, if you think that the forest goddess at the time of that moment was another, do not see it like that. Why a noble Goddess at the time moment? You were the forest goddess. On these counts, a noble Goddess, let it be known that while revolving in cyclic existence, I have fully arrived in many beings towards fully awakened, and all receive the prophecy to supreme perfect enlightenment. This concludes the 7th chapter. On the previous lines of Jalavana's fish disciple from the King of Buddha Sutras of One Golden Lord. Chapter 18, the chapter on the tigress. Furthermore, a noble goddess, the Bodhisattva, gives away even their body and life to help others. How is this so? Accompanied by 1,000 bhikshus, the Tathagata projecting bright rays of hundreds of pure and vast virtues of heaven, possessing power to eclipse challenge with unobstructed wisdom, sight, and power, was passing through the regions of Pachalas. When they came to a certain forest, there he saw an area lush with dark green soft grass and embellished with a sort of fragrant meadow flowers. Seeing this, the Tathagata said to the Venerable Nanda, "This is the site is beautiful, Nanda. It has the mark of being the place of the Dharma teaching. May I seek for the Tathagata." As instructed by the Tathagata, we set up, having set up the seat, the Nanda said to the Tathagata, "The seat is laid, O transcendent Lord Jiva, the supreme among bipeds. Freeing beings from bondage, you bestow supreme benefit upon humans. Be seated, and may the nectar of sublime discourse for the benefit of humans kindly be given." Then the Tathagata sat on the seat and addressed the bhikshus in this way: "Would you like to see the remains of the Bodhisattva who perform tasks that are difficult to perform?" And when addressed in this way, those bhikshus replied to the Tathagata, "The sublime sage, the time is right for us to see the remains of one, the best of the supreme beings, in whom rested and conceived the virtues of immense patience, fortitude, and wisdom, delighting to calm humility in the mind of recollection. Tell us well." Then the Tathagata struck the surface of the earth with his hand, whose palm was soft as the newly bloomed lotus and marked with a 1,000-spoke wheel. As soon as he struck it, the earth shook inside 6 ways, and there arose a stupa made of silver, gold, and jewels. Then the Tathagata said to the Venerable Ananda, "Ananda, open the stupa." Heeding these instructions, the Venerable Ananda opened the stupa. Inside he saw an urn covered with gold and inlaid with jewels and pearls. Having seen this, he said to the Tathagata, "O transcendent Lord, there is an urn made of gold." The Tathagata said, "Open these 7 urns." Accordingly, he opened, and he saw relics whose colors were like snow, and white lily. Seeing this, the Venerable Nanda said to the Tathagata, "O transcendent Lord, there are relics." Then the Tathagata said, "Ananda, bring here the relics of the great being." Then the Venerable Nanda took these relics and brought them to the Tathagata. Taking the relics of 1,000 bhikshus and holding them in his hand, the Tathagata addressed them in this way: "Here are the bones of one endowed with excellent virtue and supreme intellect, humility, meditation, delight, patience, and sublime fame. One who continues strive for wisdom and enlightenment, intelligent and possessing steadfast, joyous perseverance, he always delighted in giving." Then the Tathagata said this to the 1,000 bhikshus. "A bhikshus offer homage to the Bodhisattva's rights, fully charged with ethics and virtue, which are a field of merit and extremely rare to see." Then their hearts filled with aspiration, those bhikshus paid homage to the relics with hands folded in reverence. Then with hands folded, the Venerable Nanda addressed the Tathagata in this way: "The Tathagata transcendent has risen above all the world and is venerated by all beings. How is it that the Tathagata venerates these remains?" Then the Tathagata replied in this way to the Venerable Ananda: "Ananda, it is because of these relics that I quickly awoke to peerless and supreme enlightenment. Ananda, formerly in a time long past, there was a king called Maharaja who possessed chariots wielding great power and defeated opponents through obstructed might and strength. He had 3 sons who, like sons of gods, Mahavanda, Mahadeva, and Mahasattva. One day the king went to the park for sport, drawn by the enchanting qualities of the path and wishing to find flowers, the princess ran about and entered the great Savra-shura forest. As the princes ran about, their attendants were dismissed and went their own way. The princess entered the thick 12 forest of that fully protected forest reserve. Then Mahapradhananda spoke to his brother, "My heart is overwhelmed by fear. We might be killed by a wild beast. Stay close." Mahadeva said, "As for me, I have no fear, but I am anxious I might be separated from my loved ones." Mahasattva said, "Here in the forest, solitude acclaimed by seers, I am not anxious nor have I fear. This heart of mine is greatly overjoyed in hoping of finding opportunity for vast and great benefit." And as the princes strolled through the Vadashavagulam forest, they came upon a tigress who had given birth the previous week, surrounded by her offspring, hungry and thirsty, famished in her body, extremely feeble. Seeing her, Mahaprabhu said, "Alas, it would be 6 or 7 days since this wretch gave birth. She has not found food. Either she will die of starvation or devour her own cubs." To this Mahasattva said, "What is the food of this wretch?" Mahaprananda said, "Here they say fresh meat and warm blood is food suitable for tigers, bears, hyenas, and lions." Mahadeva said, This wretched body tortured by hunger and thirst has little left. She is extremely feeble and cannot look for food. Who would sacrifice their life to save hers?" Mahaprabhu said, "Oh, good fellows, giving one's body is a daunting task." Mahasattva said, "For people like us, feeble-minded and greatly attached to the body, such an act is difficult indeed. However, great beings embark on giving their bodies completely and dauntlessly strive for others' welfare. Moreover, born of affectionate love and compassion, Arya beings who consider their bodies as just obtained in heaven or on earth, this joyous man's most agreeable to saving others' lives, remain steadfast, would have hundredfold compassion in this case." Feeling very sad, the young prince looked at the tigress for a length of time without blinking, then went on his way. Then Mahasattva had a thought. "Now the time has come for me to give this body away. Why? Although I have long guarded this putrid body, subjected to death and decay, providing it with food and drink, clothing, vehicle, and luxurious beds, ultimately it is doomed to crumble and end in woe. This body has no purpose save to abandon its unknown nature. Furthermore, since it is wholly impure, it will not endure. Now I should use it for a noble end. Thus it shall be for me like a boat crossing the ocean of death and rebirth. Moreover, giving this body possessed to hundreds of abscess-like existences, filled with faces inuring without core like fern, bearing hundreds of forms, laying waste to what has been done, I shall attain the Dharmakaya's time and state free of afflicted Greeks. Sorrowless and endured with samadhi, replete with hundreds of stainless virtues, his heart brimming with supreme compassion resolved, he asked his brothers to leave him. "You too can go off. I am returning to the Savra-shura for a personal thing." Then Prince Mahasattva left this part of the forest and returned to where the tigress was. He hung his clothes on a forest creeper and prayed, "To benefit transmigratory beings, may I attain the peace of purest enlightenment. My mind compassionate and steadfast, I give this body with others find hard to give up. May I achieve the flawless, priceless enlightenment the bodhisattvas so keenly seek. I shall free beings in the triple worlds with the intense view of the ocean of existence." Then Mahasattva lay in the front of the tigress, but the tigress did nothing to come to the compassionate bodhisattva. The bodhisattva thought, "Alas, she is too weak and incapable." So he rose in search of a sharp weapon and did not find one. Taking hold of a strong branch of bamboo stick, 100 years old, he cut his throat and fell down before the tigress. And when the bodhisattva fell down, the earth shook in 6 ways like a boat pounded by winds amidst the sea. The sun, as if caught by her rays, did not shine with its rays. Flowers mingled with divine perfumes and powders fell. Then a certain goddess, her mind overwhelmed with astonishment, praised the bodhisattva. "O noble-minded one, holding all beings in your compassion, here is your welcome. Give your body here among men. Before long and without trouble you will find pristine peace, that tranquil, supreme state devoid of birth and death's pain." Then licking the blood-stained body of Bodhisattva, the tigress reduced his body to bones without flesh and blood. Feeling the earthquake, Mahaprabhu said to Mahadeva, "The way of the earth with the sea is greatly shook as far as the ocean in all 10 directions." The way the sun lost its rays and the rain of flowers had fallen. My mind is truly is troubled. My brother has now given his body. Mahadeva said, considering the words of compassion he spoke and the way he keenly observed the tigress, tortured by suffering and the weak, nearly eating her cubs, I too am troubled. Then, overcome by extreme grief, their eyes filled with tears, the two young princes went back along the path to where the tigress was. They saw his clothes hanging on bamboo shoots, his bloody bones scattered about, his hair spread in every direction. Upon seeing this, they fainted and fell down upon the remains. Reviving after some time, they raised their arms and issued a wretched cry. Alas, our beloved brother, the king, and our mother too were most devoted to their son. Our mother will surely ask, why did you leave the third one of you, he whose eyes are as long as lotus petals? Alas, for the two of us in this part of the forest land, living is not as good as meeting death. Having lost Mahasattva, how will our parents care for us? Then, lamenting in many ways, the two young princes went on their way. The servants running in all directions in search of the princes saw them and asked, Princes, what happened? What happened? At that moment, the queen was lying on a bed. She dreamt a dream showing the separation from a loved one. Her two breasts were cut off and her teeth were wrenched out. Finally, three young frightened doves, one was snatched by a hawk. Terrified by the earthquake, the queen awoke suddenly and thought, why did this sustainer of beings clothed nations so violently shake? The sun was robbed of its rays, pointing to the sorrow of my heart. In my dream, my body was weak, my eyes quivered, my breasts were cut off. I wonder if my son's gone to the forest to play sport as well. As the queen sustained these thoughts, the maidservant entered. Distressed, she spoke to the queen. Mother, the princess Aten said to the prince, it is heard that your beloved son has perished. When she heard these words with trembling heart and filled with tears, the queen approached the king. Lord, I have heard that my darling son has perished. The king too was distraught. With trembling heart, he said, I have lost my beloved son. To give solace to the queen, the king said, good queen, do not grieve. I'll immediately set to our prince. As he set off, he saw a gathering of people crowding about. Then the king saw the two princes approaching from afar. Upon seeing the king cried, the princes are coming, but not all of them. Alas, it is agony to see oneself bereaved of a son. The joy of gaining a son for a man does not equal the pain of losing a son for another. Are those men not happy who have no sons in the world, or those who have met death with their children still living? Overcome with grief, the queen, like a sure camel struck in the vital part, issued a most wretched cry. If my sons with their assembly of servants enter the forest, clearly overcome with blossoms, my youngest darling son has not returned. Where is the last son, who is like my heart? When the two princes came near, the king asked, where is the youngest of you? Grief-stricken, their eyes filled with tears, their mothers dry. They said nothing. The queen asked, where is my youngest son? My heart is about to burst. My body is in unbearable pain. My mind is failing. Speak at once. Then the two sons told what had occurred. Upon hearing it, the king and queen became senseless. And when they regained their sanity, they repeatedly and went to their place. Seeing the bones without flesh, blood, or muscle, and their hair scattered about, the king and queen fell to the ground like trees blown down by the wind. The priest and minister witnessed these events and refreshed and revived the bodies of the king and queen with salve of Mahalaya sandal. Upon reviving, the king arose and cried this lamentation, Alas, beloved son, affectionate jovial, why have you gone so quickly to death's domain? Why has death not come to me instead? Never have I felt suffering greater than this. With a bedraggled hair beating her chest, the queen too wailed pitifully. She writhed on the ground as does a fish thrown into dry land, a female buffalo deprived of a young, a she-camel whose offspring has perished. Alas, who has crushed and scattered on the ground my darling son, this lotus most loving? Which enemy of mine on this earth today has slain my son of charming eye and moon-like face? Alas, when seeing the best of son slain upon the ground, why does this body not collapse? This heart of mine is clearly made of iron. It does not crack in the face of tragic pain. But today in my dream, my breasts were cut with a sword, my teeth were wrenched from my mouth, and today my darling son is suddenly no more. Just as one of these three doves I held was snatched by a hawk, today, surrounded by three sons, death has seized one. Alas, the fruit of my evil dream has come to pass. Then the king and the queen lamented in many ways, surrounded by a large ground. They bared themselves of ornaments, paid homage to the remains of the son, and laid his remains in this place. Ananda, if you think the young prince called Mahasatva at that time when it was another, do not see it like that. Why, at that time, at that moment, I was a young prince called Mahasatva. Ananda, even before I was really free of ignorance, hatred, and desire, I saved beings from the suffering of the hells. Now that I am free of all weaknesses and arriving at enlightenment's perfection, how much more would I have wished to free all beings. In this way, for the sake of just one being, I have happily remained in the hell realms for eons. I have freed beings completely from the art cycle of birth with the most excellent of hearts. I have helped all beings and performed numerous different daunting tasks. Then the Tathagata at that time profoundly pronounced these verses. While seeking supreme enlightenment, I gave my body for many eons, just as I became king or prince, just as I completely gave my body. As I recall my past rebirth, once there was a king called Maharaja who called the great prince's son called Mahasattva the Sublime. And Mahasattva had two brothers, Mahabrahmana and Mahadeva by name. These brothers ventured into a thick forest and saw a tiger was tortured by hunger. Agonizing was Mahasattva's compassion for this being, so famished in this tigress with hunger and thirst, she was surely eat her own cubs. Thus I shall offer my body to her. Mahasattva, the son of Mahasattva, saw the famished tigress and her cubs with compassionate thought to save them. He fell down the mountain slope. The earth was with this mountain shook, scattered with various flocks of birds and terrifying herds of deer. And this world remained shrouded in darkness. Mahabrahmana and Mahadeva, his two brothers, looked for him in the great forest, failing to find Mahasattva. They anxiously ran about. Overcome by grief, their hearts filled with pain, they wandered about the forest, tears streaming down their faces. They searched for their brother. Mahabrahmana and Mahadeva, the two young princes, came close to the spot where the tigers lay. They saw the tigers in the clubs, the tiger's mouth, tiger mouths covered with blood. On the ground were a few drops of his blood. Some bones and some hair were scattered about. And when they beheld the earth stained with blood, the minds of the princes were ruined without thought. The two princes swooned and fell to the ground, their bodies covered with dust and with dirt. Their entourage of attendants too cried lamentations, were overcome with grief. Swiftly sprinkling the water upon them with arms upraised, they swept. The beloved queen, the mother who bore him, sat in ease in the palace, accompanied by the 500 women. The moment he fell, milk streamed from her breast and immediately turned to blood. Her body and limbs were racked by sharp pains that were pierced by pins. Deeply distressed, she was pierced by the arrows of sorrow. Her heart flooded with grief. She approached the king, rich and weeping before the king. She said this to the king, Maharaja. Listen to me, King, Lord of humans. My body burns with a fire of grief. Milk flowed from the tips of my breast and immediately oozed as blood. My body stings as pierced by needles. My heart is next to bursting. Such is the sight I shall not see my sons again. Such is the fate of my children. Be compassionate, give me my love. Today in my dream I saw 3 young doves, one dove, my young son, sweet and kind, was snatched by a hawk in that place. The sorrow of such dreams has entered my heart. My mind is scorched by distress. Such is the fate of my sons. Before long I shall succumb to grief. Okay, shall one give me my life? Having spoken, the chief queen fainted and fell to the ground. Her mind was senseless, deprived of memory, and her thoughts failed. Upon seeing the sublime queen fainted and fallen on the ground, the whole crowd in that palace too wept and wailed in pitiable voices. Once the Lord King was overwhelmed by loss of his son, his ministers and attendants too set out to search for the princess. People all over the city came out of their various homes crying with tears flowing. They asked for Mahasattva. Is he alive or dead? Where has Mahasattva gone? Today we will glimpse that one who is beloved and pleasing to see. Suddenly the silent wind of grief, fierce and without noise, blew through that region. Yet due to limitless magic was a sharp sound. Then King Maharaja rose up, oppressed with grief and crying. He sprinkled water upon his sublime queen, who had fainted and fallen to the ground. Regaining the senses, the queen arose, her mind forlorn. She asked, "Are my sons dead or are they alive?" Then King Maharaja said to the chief queen, "The minister and attendants too have gone to search for the princess. Do not be downcast in mind. Do not be sorrowful in heart." In this way, having comforted the queen, the King Maharaja came out of the royal palace, surrounded by a host of ministers. He was crying, weak in mind, feeble in body, and overcome by grief. Many hundreds of beings too cried with tears falling. They ran out of the excellent city to search for the young princes. Seeing the king emerge from the palace, thus they followed after him. The moment the king left their city took after for his beloved sons. He gazed with staring eyes in every direction. He saw a man coming his way, his head shaven, his limbs smeared with blood, his clothes covered with dust and dirt. His face was hodden with tears. A fierce grief took hold of King Maharaja's heart. His face covered with tears, he wept. Standing with arms upraised, he lamented. Then a certain minister came quickly and swiftly from afar, coming close to King Maharaja, the Lord of men. He spoke. Lord of men, do not be sad, your charming sons are alive. Before long in your presence you will see your beloved sons. The king continued upon his way, and then a second minister came to him, clad in dust and sweat, sodden clothes. In a tearful voice he said to the king, O great king, 2 of your sons are alive, scorched by the fire of grief. O king, your third son is missing. Mahasatva was captured by impermanence. He saw a starving tigress who had given birth swiftly before and was near to eating her cubs. For them, young Mahasatva, his heart filled with compassion, proclaimed enlightenment's great resolve. All beings I shall set free in future times. May I realize the great enlightenment I so keenly seek. Then Mahasatva jumped down that steep slope. The famished tiger stood up, quickly making his body without flesh. He left the prince with just a few bones. Upon hearing these dreadful words, his mind was shattered. King Maharaja fainted and fell to the ground. The fire in his grief blazed without relent. The ministers and attendants too were wretchedly overcome by sorrow. They sprinkled water upon him and lamented with arms upraised. Then the third minister said to the king, Today I have seen both princes in the great forest lying on the ground. They have fainted, their minds were broken. We profusely sprinkled water upon them until they revived and rose up once more. Ablaze, they looked in the 4 directions, standing. Briefly, they fell again to the ground. They lamented wretchedly in pitiful voices. With arms uplifted, they sang their brother's praise. The king's mind had extremely low and was distraught at having lost his son. In unbearable grief, he cried lamentations. Then this thought entered the mind of the king. My son, my loved and charming, has been captured by impermanence. The life of my other 2 sons could now be lost to the fire of grief. Therefore I shall quickly proceed there to see those sons who are pleased to behold. On swift mounts to the royal court of the royal palace, I will quickly bring my sons, if not the heart of my love who bore these like to burst from the scorched fire of grief. Upon seeing her 2 sons, she will find peace, and therefore her life will not be lost. The king, escorted by a host of ministers, mounting out and went to see his 2 sons, crying in wretched with pitiful voices. The 2 princes came their way, calling out their brother's name. The king wept in anguish. He took his sons and returned home. Quickly, like one of the great haste, he presented his son to the queen. I, the Tathagata Shakyamuni, was formerly Mahasatva, the son of King Maharatha, who made the tigress well. Shuddhodana, the great king, was a King Maharatha, and Queen Mahar was a sublime Queen Maharaprana, and became Maitreya. Likewise, Prince Mahadeva was a youthful Manjushri. The tigress was Mahashapati, the 5 bhikshunis with her 5 cubs. Then the great King Maharatha, the great queen, graciously cried many lamentations. They bathed themselves of all ornaments, and together with a great crowd made homage to the bones of the prince. Placing the remains of Mahasatva in this very place, they built the stupa of 7 jewels. When Mahasatva gave the tigress his body, he made this altruistic wish: by the merit of completely giving my body, may I in future times, with certainly and subtly beyond thought, perform the deeds of Buddha for sentient beings. When the expression was being given, inconceivable and uncontrollable numbers of beings, including gods, humans, generated an altruistic potential of supreme and perfect enlightenment. This is the reason there's a course revealing this stupa here. Then through the power of the Tathagata's blessing, the stupa entered the ground on that very spot. This ends the 18th chapter, the chapter of the Tigress, from the King of the Glorious Sutras, the Sublime Golden Light. Chapter 19. Then these hundreds of thousands of bodhisattvas, there's a chapter on the praise by all the bodhisattvas. And these hundreds of thousands of bodhisattvas approached the Tathagata Savra-shura to paying homage with their heads at the feet of the Tathagata Savra-shura. They stood on one side. Having stood to one side, the numerous hundreds of thousands of bodhisattvas folded his heads and reverence and praised the Tathagata in these voices. I conquer your from these verses. O conqueror, your body resembles refined gold, for its glorious presence possesses a golden hue. You are golden like the golden king of mountains. The white lotus seer has features of gold. Sublime major marks adorn your body in full. Sublime minor signs embellish your body parts. You are brilliant and possess the fine splendor of gold. Utterly pristine, serene, and the Lord of mountains. You had the voice of Brahma and Brahma's melodic sound. You roar the rumbling song of the lion and that of the dragons too. You have 64,000 melody echoes and resounds. Conquer your melody holds cuckoo and peacock songs. Utterly without stain, spotless and immaculate with glorious light, a conqueror marks of hundreds of virtues adorn you. Your ocean of wisdom is supremely flawless and pristine. Conqueror like Savra-shura, you are adorned with every virtue, with supreme compassion for the welfare of beings. You are the supreme bestower of peace upon the world, granting a state of tranquility upon death. O conqueror, you expound the high sublime truth and usher in the serenity of beyond suffering. O conqueror, through revealing the nectar of Dharma, you usher in the deathless city and abode of peace. You are the source of everything serene. O conqueror, you free migrating beings from suffering and liberate creatures from this ocean of misery. You place them well upon the path to peace and give happiness to every being. Nothing can be found that is incomparable to the sage's ocean of virtue and wisdom. Possessing the compassion for beings laden with life, you have the power to love, perseverance, and skill. There is none among beings, even among gods, who in many thousands and millions of eons can fully explain merely one drop of virtue from the ocean of supreme qualities. Taking a single drop from your ocean of virtues, I have stated some only in breath. Whatever merit I have in custom gain, may I beings touch supreme enlightenment. This ends the 19th chapter on the praise by all the Bodhisattvas from King of Glory Sutras, Sublime Golden Light. Chapter 20, praise to all the Sagatas. Then indeed the Bodhisattva Richirikatu rose from his seat, placed his upper robe over his shoulder, knelt his right knee on his ground, folded his hands in reference towards the Tathagata and praised the Tathagata. Lord of sages, you are glorious, adorned with thousands of enchanted virtues. You possess the marks of hundreds of merits. With a sumptuous complexion, you appear supremely serene as 1,000 suns shining forth with dazzling light. Blazing with myriad rays, you are engulfed with light, resplendent with colour like jewels of blue and white. Gold, lapis, copper, and dawn crystal light used to pulverize Semuru, the Vajrakumar mountains. You illuminate tens of millions of worlds and soothe the fears of suffering. You satisfy beings with supreme peace. Your complexion and six senses power are bright and beautiful. Behold, your form is a joy for beings who can continually see. Enchanting beautiful, your hair, the colour of a peacock, shines as a lotus filled with bees. You are adorned with the virtue of pure compassion. You have gathered sublime merit through concentration and love. Possessed of sublime minor marks in many colours, you fill beings with all happiness. Beautiful by enlightening seven wings, you are adorned with virtues such as samadhi, giver of well-being, all peace and happiness stem from you. You are richly adorned with an array of profound virtue and shine vividly in tens of millions of pure lands. Gloriously radiant like a fire's glowing light, you resemble the full solar orb of the sky. Endowed with all the virtues as to Mount Semuru, you are magnanimous in every world sphere. Like cow milk, a conch, white lily or the moon, white as pristine snow, the rows of teeth are lovely in your mouth. As a king of geese is graceful in the sky, the precious treasure house in the centre of the horizon of the serene moonlight face curls to the right, stunningly beautiful, like lapis or the sun amid the sky, bright with light. This ends the 20th chapter, the chapter on the praise of all the Tathagatas from the King of Glorious Sutras, the Sublime Golden Light. Chapter 21, the concluding chapter. Then at that moment, the noble goddess Bodhisattva Mahayana Samuchaya praised the Tathagata. Homage to the Buddhas who possess of an utterly immaculate mind, and besides open and utterly flawless Dharma, perfectly knowing existence and non-existence, this sublime mind is freed from evil karma's past. How amazing the Buddha's splendor is boundless. How amazing it is like the ocean and Mount Meru. How amazing the Buddha's field of activity is endless. The amazing Buddha is rare. This is Untitled blossom. How amazing the compassion of the Tathagata. The pinnacle of Shakya's kings, a son among lords and men, that he has expounded such a sublime sutras in order to nurture and guide all beings. With his senses serene, the Tathagata Shakyamuni Buddha has entered the city of peace, most sublime. So profound, calm, and pure is your concentration. You abide in it towards Buddha's domain of experience. In this way, the bodies of Shravavas are empty. The most sublime of bipeds dwells in emptiness too. As all of these phenomena are empty by nature, those lacking empty in nature are not found at all. When wavering and steadfast, I remember the conqueror. Always I am anxious to behold the Buddha. Fervently and incessantly I pray to the glimpsing of the fully enlightened Tathagata Son, constantly planting my knees on the ground. In sorrowful thirst, I've longed for the conqueror. In a pitiful voice, I sought for the leader. Deeply thirsty for this guarded sight, I remain, as I incessantly blaze with anxiety's fire. Bestow upon me the cooling water of your sight. O Buddha, act for me with compassion. Grant me the boon of your appearance, for I suffer from thirst for your sublime form. Satisfy me with the water of your compassion. You are the food for all beings, including gods. Thus, the bodies of Shravakas are empty. All beings by nature are like in a dream, like space and nature and space, an illusion of mirage, or the moon reflected in water. Buddha, you are well endowed with a great empty. Then the Tathagata rose from his seat and spoke in a Brahma voice. Excellent noble goddess, excellent again to you. When the Tathagata spoke in this way, the Bodhisattvas led by the noble goddess, Bodhisattva Mahasana Chukaya, the daughters of the gods, such as the noble goddess Sarasvati, the hosts of goddesses, such as the noble goddess Shri, the divine goddess kings, such as Vishwavana, the whole assembly in the entire world of gods, humans, Suras and Gandharvas, Kanaras, Maharajas, and so forth, rejoice and greatly praise the speech of the Tathagata. This ends the 21st chapter of the complete chapter from the King of Arya Sutras as a fine gold. Thus, we annually wish to dedicate this sutra for the coming year, that all the sicknesses and all the suffering of all sentient beings is eliminated.